Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Progressive Discussions. I'm your host, James P. Madonna, as seen on the web, Mega Life 21, and I am here with my co-host, the one and only Damian Owens. How are you, sir?
I'm great, because I downed a pint of my favorite beer, or one of my favorite beers, I should say. Now I'm getting ready to pour up another pint of another one of my favorite beers, Natty Ice. And excuse my acne outbreak. I'm having a little bit of an acne outbreak, and I have no idea why. But other than that, I'm doing superb. Got a new job, so things are looking up for me.
That's good. Excellent, excellent. Damian Owens, originally from Virginia, now resides in eastern Tennessee, and he's pouring his Natty Ice or natural ice, and I'm going to show you what I have before I start with the main topic of the show. I have here from Japan. I have, oh, hold on, let me do this the right way. I have with the reindeer logo, I have Jinga Kogan premium unfiltered beer. Okay, it is a combination of wheat and barley. I had it on I brought it on Thundering Thursday on Ronald J. Theriot hosted the show, and I gave it a very good rating. It was outstanding, and the reason why I got 2 bottles is simply because it comes in this beautiful cobalt blue bottle glass, which I have one of my living room windowsills, and it looks stunning. So this is I have a place for this when I finish it. You know, I'm just gonna. The label is easy to peel off, and the Japanese don't put some unsightly treads into the top of the bottleneck. It's sort of attractive, you know what I mean, compared to the typical beer bottles. It's beautiful cobalt blue, so that's the only reason why I got 2 of them. Now, granted, it was the first time I ever had this last Thursday, so I'm going to pour it, and it has a kind of I guess an orangey yellow, but not like crystal clear, because I suppose because it's unfiltered, it is a translucent light orangey yellow.
Yeah.
And it is very aromatic in terms of having a floral and citrus scent.
Yeah, that and the wheat is going to give it a little bit of a hazy appearance as well.
I noticed that with the German, not the American, with the good higher end German wheat beers, they have a very similar floral and citrusy bouquet, as well as the flavorings, especially the one I think it's called Aventinus. But there's a whole bunch of great German beers, but they do the wheat beers better than like Blue Moon or which they claim to be a Belgium wheat, but it's probably owned by a big corporate a macro company anyway. But anyway, I digress. I just wanted to present what we have as a beverage. But the main topic of the show is very serious because what happened in the Iowa caucus is obvious. Bernie Sanders, the Democratic Socialist, was leading in the popular vote. He still is leading in the popular vote by a decent margin, but that scrawny, bucktooth weasel, Tom Perez of the DNC, decided to interfere with the Iowa Democrat Party and decided to screw over Bernie Sanders, and with the system of delegates, which is seems like it's a way the top 1%, the elite, the oligarch, rigs elections and decides who they want. So Tom Perez interfered, and well, they were using delegates anyway, which I'm against. But I think the Iowa Democrat Party of the state of Iowa bucked heads with Tom Perez and the DNC because of his sudden interference. And I don't know if he called, what was the term that he used to halt what they were doing. I don't know I don't think it was recount. It was something. I think Bernie Sanders has a right to call a recount if he feels that he was screwed over. Now, I think he was screwed over, and the pencil neck geek corporatist from the wine cave, Pete Buttigieg, was handed, or is being handed, is attempted to be handed the winner of the Iowa caucus, because they all dashed to New Hampshire right away. Like it seems like the DNC is going to try, or going to, in actuality, screw over Bernie Sanders again in 2020 like they did in 2016. So the negative interference, of course, I think he got his marching orders from a higher power. Tom Perez decided to interfere with the Iowa caucus. I don't like delegates. I don't like super delegates. I don't like the Electoral College. There should be one person, one vote.
Yes, so, absolutely.
But this, of course, the mainstream American media, like, let's take the corporate whores of CNN, they're starting to admit that Bernie Sanders is in the lead as far as the overall United States polls go, and that he's gaining momentum. Now, for them to admit that, normally they will not promote a democratic socialist. They will promote a corporatist. They're always boasting and boasting, backing, and promoting Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, big time corporatist, Amy Klobuchar, people like that. Andrew Yang. You never trust a wealthy businessman that gets into politics. Now, Tom Steyer? I like him. You know why? For a multi-billionaire, he sounds pretty progressive. Do I trust him? No, because he's a billionaire. He's a businessman. But I like him as far as what he says. He sounds very progressive. He sounds like the very wealthy version of a Bernie Sanders when he talks. But the mainstream media, every day, every night, they try to avoid Bernie Sanders like the plague, mentioning his name, saying anything positive about him. But lately, they've been saying that he is ahead in the polls nationwide because people are angry. and rightfully so, for various reasons. And they're starting to see that the system has failed them. But I saw that a long time ago, that capitalism is a complete failure for the 98% of the population. It's always been rigged for the top 2%. And the media is owned by the top 1%, the U.S. media. And this idea of delegates and super delegates and electoral college, I think, is a way for the elitists to control and rig the elections and prevent someone who has integrity, who's really honest, to become president. But the momentum he has is huge, I think, compared to 2016. I'm surprised that the Democrats who always come off as feeling your pain, crocodile tears, I'm surprised that they still utilize delegates in the primaries and the super delegates. They haven't abolished that. They haven't abolished that at all. And as you people know, or you should know by now, that Damian Owens and myself were the proud Pinko Patrol. We're socialists and we're proud of it, comrade. And if you don't like it, well, you can imagine this going far up your rectum. And,
Yeah.
And I've been thinking of getting a red beret that is worn by this organization that is connected with the Democratic Socialists of America. They're starting to wear red berets, and I think they look pretty good. I think the last time I've seen red berets were on the Guardian Angels, but you don't hear about them anymore. Curtis Sliwa and the Guardian Angels. Now the death toll, unfortunately, is up to, I think, 904 for the coronavirus, but it's all in China. My friend from Shanghai, Shirley Chen, says, isn't that strange that all the deaths are in China? All 900 some odd deaths. Of course, they were building 2 new hospitals to quarantine them. It takes 14 days to determine if they have it. But yeah, so I want to toast my sister and brother-in-law for giving me a heaping helping of their hospitality, because I stood over their house. They live about 20 minutes west of me, and I got home today, and my brother-in-law gave me a nice aquarium with a cast iron stand with the shelf on the bottom, the old-fashioned cast iron aquarium stand. I have the shelf on the bottom where I put my other critters, and it looks pretty good. Looks nice. So anyway, getting back to how they're trying to sabotage socialism, there are people in the United States, obviously. They're Donald Trump supporters. They're middle class, either regular run-of-the-mill middle class and upper middle class, that are not in a very high income tax bracket. Not that wealthy people pay their fair share in taxes, but I was thinking about why they are so obsessively fanatical about bashing the left, the far left, socialism, Bernie Sanders, whatever. Anybody who's to the left, they do it every day. They're obsessed with bashing the left. And since they're not yet in that income tax bracket, I was trying to think of a reason why they are so fanatically obsessive in bashing the left. and which includes Bernie Sanders now. And I was thinking, maybe they like the idea of being able to hoard money, hoard wealth, get away with paying taxes because maybe at heart they're greedy, stingy people, even though they're only middle class. And they would like a system that will allow them to hoard wealth and not help anybody, and not have social programs, because they really don't give a shit about anyone who's in need. They have no compassion. I'm talking about how they are naturally, their personalities. So they probably want the Republicans in because they're trying to make their first million, because it's very important for them to get wealthy. They're very driven, but they are most likely to type that when they do get wealthy, they want to hoard it. They're stingy. They don't want to pay any taxes at all, even though they haven't reached that level yet. So they want to attain that level, but haven't reached it yet. So they are probably like the 1%, like the oligarch, but they're wannabes because they're middle class. So what is your take on these obsessive people that troll day and night, supporting a party that doesn't really work for them yet, because they're not part of the top 2%, but they're obsessive about defending that party, promoting that party, and bashing everyone that's to the left? Did you have any psychological hunches on why they do what they do?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a few. So first, we'll start with the Republicans. Okay, so Republicans, modern day Republicans, are what used to be the old Democrat Party. Now, no, Republicans used to be what used to be the old Democrat Party.
Oh, the Dixiecrats, like George Wallace.
Correct. However, there are a few minor differences in terms of this, but we'll go ahead and we'll start with the Republicans first. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start with what the term derives from, Republicans. So whenever we're dealing with a republic, I mean, Republican come in many different forms. So a lot of it is, very status quo, very minimal change, if no change at all. Now, there's a variety of reasons as to why people buy into it. The biggest reason why the majority of Americans buy into the Republican bullshit is because of their avid disdain and hatred of liberals or anything leftist. Now, liberals are a very weird breed in terms of politics. Now, we did go over an example a couple shows ago of right-wing liberalism, where they tried to outlaw masturbation because of, that was killing sperm cells. And therefore, we're following this logical fallacy of a potential sperm cell, therefore, equals life. Equals potential life, but does not always equal life 100%. That is right-wing liberalism. Now, getting to left-wing liberalism. Left-wing liberalism takes more of the approach of anything and everything goes in a leftist sense, whereas, right-wing liberalism would do it more in a rightist sense. So, where the Republicans do a great job of doing this is, they do an excellent job of portraying how evil leftist liberalism is. But yet at the same time, they try to avidly defend their right-wing liberalism. So with all that being said, they want to go a little bit more alpha in terms of their aggressive stance, in terms of the avid disdain of the hatred of liberals and leftists in general. So they're more willing to do things like really bring out the worst in people, so to speak. So, to bring out the racism, the bigotry, like xenophobia, anti-Semitism, things like that. Now, a lot of Americans buy into that line of thinking because, it gives them a very simple thing to buy into without very little critical thinking, if any critical thinking at all. Like, go ahead and blame the immigrants. Go ahead and blame this particular group of society for all their problems. Because, it gives them that out to go ahead and say, okay, yes, we've identified the source of the problem. We're going to go ahead and attack that. Now, that used to be the case, but now that part of right-wing liberalism is still there, but people are going more with left-wing liberalism for two reasons. One, they see that, right-wing liberalism is a little bit more too dogmatic and a bit too rigid, whereas left-wing liberalism offers more diversity and is a bit more dynamic and is a bit more willing to adapt, so to speak, to material conditions. So that's where there's a big schism to where, one wants to keep status quo and not adapt, and one does not want to keep the status quo and wants to adapt. Now, where this is going to ultimately create a big problem for the two of them is, okay, they're wanting to throw Bernie Sanders under the bus. But, in fact, Bernie Sanders is the biggest savior of capitalism of the 21st century for a variety of reasons. He wants to go ahead and make some concessions out of capitalism and give people more rights so that way they don't rebel against the system. Like to go ahead and make healthcare a right, to go ahead and make education a right, and to also, make having a job a right, the right to a livable wage a right, the right to access to infrastructure a right, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to portray that in a negative light by any means. I'm just showing as an example as to, why he is the savior of capitalism, and they're just throwing him under the bus. They're just tossing him aside. The Democrats are doing it, but also Republicans are doing it, but no surprise there. So that just also goes to show you just how inherently flawed and also contradictory capitalism is, not only to the American people and people around the world, but also even to its own self-preservation interests. Like, if I were a bourgeois capitalist, I would be wholeheartedly supporting Sanders for all those reasons I previously stated above, because, he would go ahead and, rile the American people down and say, okay, capitalism's not all that bad. We can go ahead and redistribute this wealth, but we're not doing a socialistic manner. We're going to show you that, capitalism, we're going to take that frowny face and we're going to give you the smiley face of capitalism to show that, we can definitely have that buffer zone, that, Karl Marx was wrong, that, we can have the three-class system as the buffer zone to show you that, capitalism's not all bad, that, there is this buffer zone to where, certain amount of people can get into this particular class, and that, it's not just the rich and the poor. But then yet, also if you think about it, if you give people more rights, like, you don't trample on the rights that already exist, like, the right to free speech, the right to expression, the right against unreasonable search and seizure, Second Amendment rights, but you also give them more rights, they're going to look at you and say, you know what, you're a bit more credible. I'm going to buy into you. Even if it's complete and total bullshit, not even grade A American bullshit at that. But that's why he's so good and why he is the one that's going to save capitalism. But I think at this point, capitalism is too far gone. It's become too antagonistical, not only to the American people, but the rest of people throughout the world. But it's even become so antagonistical to even its own self-persevering interest, and the competing factions of the bourgeois class have become so antagonistical not only to each other as opposing forces, but even among themselves. This is the kind of world that we're living in. And people just, they don't want to acknowledge that fact. And I hate to bust their balls, but that's the objective facts of reality, people. I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but it's true.
Now Bernie Sanders, it has some similarities, of course, to FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, some similarities to the progressive Republican Teddy Roosevelt, and more so with the progressive Republican Dwight D. Eisenhower of the 1950s. There are some similarities. The tax rate on the wealthy during Eisenhower was like 90% or a little bit higher. The rich definitely paid their fair share in taxes, and he started the interstate highway system, and infrastructure was being built. America's middle class was prospering tremendously. America's middle class, which is Main Street, is the backbone of the American economy. They are the true consumers. They are the real job producers. So when you help the little guy, you're also helping the little guy to put money back into the economy by having surplus cash to spend. So the more the little guy prospers, the more surplus cash he and she spends.
Exactly.
Stimulates the economy.
Exactly.
So yeah, what you were saying before, that even though the Trumpanzees can't understand it, Bernie Sanders is the biggest help to reform and rejuvenate capitalism compared to any other candidate.
Exactly.
Because you help the little guy. I mean, how many refrigerators do the rich buy? I mean, what do they buy? They buy yachts, they buy private jets, or whatever. But the real consumers are the little schmucks.
Exactly.
Middle class, even the poor spend. They just they buy lower ticketed items, but they still go out and spend money.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree. When you have a democratic socialist society like they have in Scandinavia, is the only way to benefit the 98%, and these are the real consumers, and these are the people that will stimulate the economy. But the flag waving, well, it's even before Trump. What will we call them? Right wingers, even though they're supporting a system that only works for the very rich,
Mm-hmm.
which is really odd that they are. Oh, and another thing, these right wingers that don't have a pot to piss in, or they're middle class, what they do is they call themselves patriots.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to be patriots? You want to be a sucker for the military-industrial complex and put your life on the line and possibly lose a couple legs, so the fat cats of the military-industrial complex can make a greater fortune? Is that what you want to do? So you want to call yourself patriots? Ronnie S., how are you, sir? The feminists got to go. Well, they're selfish. They have a selfish agenda of power. Bernie's going to rejuvenate capitalism with a Ronnie doesn't believe it. Did you just jump aboard? Did you hear what Damian Owens was saying before? Trump is a socialist.
Trump, a socialist? Maybe a national socialist, a Nazi, but like a regular socialist?
Well,
not only no, but hell no.
You know how they're socialists? For themselves. They like to get freebies for themselves and their rich crony friends. They just don't want socialism for the 98%. They like the handouts for the elites.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's what Ronnie was getting at, because as far as socialism for everyone, no way.
Well, when you talk about socialism for everybody, that was one of the biggest drastic differences between Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin. Was, Joseph Stalin preached class consciousness and class warfare, whereas Adolf Hitler wanted to make socialism for all, regardless of, national origin or even your class origin. So when Hitler spoke with a forked tongue depending upon who he was speaking to. When he spoke to the guys and gals of Germany during the 1920s and even the early 1930s, it was socialism for the proletariat. But yet, whenever he was talking with the higher echelons of society, it was socialism for the rich. So, he was able to convince the German people, all the German people, to buy into socialism, so that way they can go ahead and make it, socialism for the proletariat, but also make it socialism for the bourgeoisie. Now, granted, the results spoke for themselves, and in fact, they actually did capitalism better than the capitalist class themselves. So I just wanted to just throw that out as, food for thought.
Well, Damian Owens explained that, and the both of us had a discussion that Bernie Sanders and democratic socialism is, in reality, the best way to rejuvenate and stimulate capitalism, because the true consumers are the little guys at 98%, not the top 2%. I mean, to put, if you want to really rejuvenate capitalism, you want to give the masses, the asses of the masses, more surplus cash to put back into the system and spend. Okay, and that's how it rejuvenates capitalism, by helping the true consumers, the middle class, and even the poor, the masses. Now, you said socialism and crony capitalism aren't that different.
Yes and no.
Yeah, try to explain.
Okay, so crony capitalism is like it's kind of like a made-up term, as in, crony capitalism is something that, a lot of right-wingers, and even to a certain extent, a lot of left-wingers use to try to go ahead and dismiss, Karl Marx, and also to try to dismiss capitalism really as being a system based upon inequality and other various factors. They want to say, oh, it's just it's the inherent greed of, the higher aspects of capitalism, rather than, looking at, the whole picture. They only want to say, oh, this is the only problem of the picture. Remove this part of the picture, and the rest of the picture is not going to be so bad. And if you want to think about it, with the American people and their severe lack of critical thinking skills, as I previously stated before about how right-wing liberalism can appeal to your more dumber aspects of society, but with something like that, that would definitely appeal to something like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and say right now, there are Americans out there who are dumber than a sack of fucking rocks in a school of jellyfish.
Damn right. You're damn right. Ronnie says Social Security and Medicare, as well as the American military, are the biggest socialistic programs there are.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and prove you wrong, Ronnie. Okay, I know you're right winger, and we can have a healthy debate about this, but just because you have a social program and therefore you have a military, that does not automatically equal socialism. I mean, every society that has ever existed, even to the present day, has always had a military. Does that therefore mean they're socialist? No. I mean, at one point has the ancient Roman Empire, one of the greatest empires of the ancient world, ever claimed to be socialist because they have a military, or they have some social safety nets, or some social programs to kind of, help out people under capitalism? Nowhere. That is absolutely nowhere to be seen or heard of. So I hate to bust your right-wing balls, but just because there's a social program and there's a military, that does not mean that's socialism. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, the Roman Empire, even though they were imperialistic, they did care about the well-being of the Romans, of the people. and they did do things for Rome that were positive, but it was totalitarian, of course, But I don't understand why these flag wavers are so obsessed and enthralled with a political system that only works for the top 2%. They don't. A lot of these people that call themselves, "I'm a patriot," oh, you libtards, they call us. We're libtards. I mean, they're not paying. They're not in a high income tax bracket, and their standard of living is really a struggle to achieve. Sometimes non-existent, because the quality of life as years go by in America is going down. All their money is going towards living expenses. The cost of living, of course, is much higher than the average wage in America. And every time they fight like hell to get the minimum wage a little bit, chump change, a little bit chicken feed higher, boom, the cost of living just continues to escalate, and it's
exactly
far above it. It's always
right.
far above it. So where has capitalism benefited the masses? How?
Well, it did benefit for a little bit.
In the 1950s.
Yeah, well, I mean, it has benefited to a certain extent. Like, capitalism in terms of historical development did have a role to play. That was, overthrowing the monarchy and taking the wealth out of the monarchy's hands of feudalism and placing it in the hands of more individuals to show that, wealth can be more distributed among different classes of society, and that, that was what capitalism was supposed to be, to, advance the material conditions of humanity. But that role has since been served, and now it's just clinging on. And now we see that, capitalism had its role to play. It's becoming destructive. It's becoming toxic. And we see it all around us. To quote Lenin, fascism is capitalism in decay. I mean, let's go ahead and face it. The world now is fascist. And
the definition of fascism is corporate control. If you go to Webster's dictionary, that's what a lot of people don't know their political definitions. I just want to take a brief moment and welcome Mr. Michael Hilton from San Francisco.
How are you doing?
San Francisco, California. Hi, Michael. What are you drinking this today, Sunday?
What I'm drinking today is a Torp, James, and it's a Torp from Hopsy, the Krups home machine. We have I'm in fuller mode now.
No, try to speak higher so I can hear. We can hear what you're drinking.
Hi guys.
Yeah, your volume. Yeah.
Yeah. How's the volume? Is that still?
Are you using the iPad?
Yeah, using the iPad now. Yeah.
Well, anyway, what now? It looks good. What are you drinking again?
Drinking the I kept saying Hefeweizen, but it's a Belgian style wheat beer by Hopsy, and it's called Everything Nice. 5% ABV, 15 IBUs. It's really well done. This is when the private interests are actually listening to people a little bit more. It's brewing good beer. That's when I like them a little bit more.
Well, it's a nice glass, and it's a very robust looking wheat beer, right? Okay.
It is, yeah. It's coriander. You're getting the coriander. You're getting
really coriander's in there. How about that?
Coriander tends to be it's not a Hefeweizen, so I said coriander in my beer review. I could be wrong though. It's a paprika kind of feel. You're getting like a coriander, paprika, lemon drop, orangey kind of feel.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, and I heard that Bernie Sanders lost the Iowa caucus. Big surprise.
Yeah, because of the damn delegates. But he won the popular vote. It reminds you of how Donald Trump got elected. Ronnie S. says the Roman Empire was mercantilists
True.
Capitalism didn't start till the 1500s or so. Rome did start out as a republic, which is interesting considering that's also how the American Socialist Empire started, all downhill since 1861. The definition of fascism is government and corporate collectivism, what we live under today. Well, yeah, the corporations pay off the government. That's what they call the oligarch.
Yeah, aren't we going by the way of Plato? Everybody deals with everything without, how dare you question me? It's just we are going the way of Plato. We're not going by the Aristotle way anymore.
Right.
Well, the shit's gonna hit the fan.
Right. Well, I do want to touch on some of Ronnie's points, and then I have my own point, and then I'll shut up for a little while because I won't have anything else to say until later on. But mercantilist. So okay, so a lot of the ancient world, and even the medieval world, was feudalism. Feudalism was around for thousands of years before capitalism finally took a hold. Well, if you've been paying attention to what I said previously, the only real changes from feudalism to capitalism was the means of production being taken out of the hands of the monarchy and being placed in the hands of the mercantile class. And then from there, it just kind of, trickle on down to other classes. That was really the only major changes from feudalism to capitalism. I mean, basically, if you want to look at it, capitalism is just feudalism 2.0 with a little bit of tweaking and adjustment. Now, getting back to something else I was telling you, a military is going to be an exertion of force for your country as a whole. That's not something as an exclusivity to only socialism. That can be under any system of government for that matter, whether it's capitalism, socialism, fascism, monarchism, what have you, all across the political spectrum. That is the exertion of your particular country manifested externally. Law enforcement is that external manifestation internally. Secondly, I also do hear a lot of these arguments about, social welfare programs being socialist. Well, yeah, Bernie Sanders is a lot like FDR, but also here's another right-wing argument that I hear that I'm going to debunk very quickly. I hear this argument of, therefore, China's government owns property, therefore that means socialism. I mean, yeah, there is state control of the means of production under socialism, but that's not just something exclusive to socialism. That can happen under capitalism as well, particularly this thing called state capitalism, which is what China is now. You could not even remotely call China socialist or communist at this point. They have no social safety nets. They have no universal education, no universal health care, no access to infrastructure. They don't even have a lot of basic rights that would be enshrined to individuals under socialism. And in fact, there's nothing even theoretically under our branch of capitalism, which is supposed to be free market, free competition and trade, that, government could not own property. I mean, that's not even theoretically prohibited, even under free market capitalism. It takes more of a precedent under state capitalism. So even under state capitalism, individuals can still own, personal property, like a home, or they can even own a car. That's not anything that's specifically prohibited. Even under socialism, people can still own homes as well as cars. They want to take this notion of, private property means that it's held by a private individual. No, private property are means of production, pure and simple. Now, could personal property theoretically become private property? Yes. But in 90 to 95% of most instances, a home, a car, computers, your personal money, that's considered your personal property. That's not private property. That's not something that is not prohibited under capitalism or even socialism, for one instance. So I just wanted to clear that up because, you know, a lot of right wingers want to just throw a lot of this BS out just because, therefore, that equals that, based on maybe 1 or 2 points.
Yeah. The Road to Serfdom, a great book by F.A. Hayek, and Ronnie considers himself a philosophical anarcho-capitalist, but a registered libertarian. Okay.
Oh boy! Now you are. Oh boy! Now we're really going down a rabbit hole.
Sounds a little contradictory.
I'm telling you now, Ronnie, coming from a former libertarian, libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism is a full of crock of horseshit. Sorry for my words being the way they are. I'm getting worked up.
No,
But
that's okay. There's no censorship on my shows. No censorship.
yeah, coming from a former libertarian and potentially anarcho-capitalist, libertarianism and anarcho-capitalism is a bunch of horseshit. Not even grade A horseshit at that.
Yeah.
One, it's like you want government, you just don't want them to dictate you. The others is just a nihilism of the government, which feel like that's been more right-leaning kind of thing. You know, when they said about Antifa, you know, no ICE, we don't want ICE. That was a little anarchic, but that was like one example. You see this constantly with the GOP now. They're eroding the Senate. Don't know why it takes 67. You know, if you look at the actual raw numbers, that was a very close vote. They are derailing Bernie Sanders because he's doing well. It feels like America's always been a society it's about success, but it's also about pain at the same time. We're also very much about pain, adversity, and gladly and proudly accepting it, even though we know what the consequences are in the long run. That's why you constantly have to see people like coaches, you know, go out and tell people, you know, live your life, do what you really were meant to do, because they have to remind them, because, you know, Americans they could be cool, but they are just subservient to I know, because I'm like that. We are subservient to failure as much as success. We're addicted to pain.
Well, the people, first of all, the burden of taxation should never be on the middle class, which is what the oligarch, the top 1% or 2%. I might as well throw that in, 2% milk. They want all the tax breaks for them, and they want to put the burden on the true consumers of the American society, and the real job producers, Main Street businesses, small emerging growth companies, mom and pop stores, professionals, all middle class people. They're the ones that should get the tax breaks, not the very rich, because trickle down economics has always been a big lie. The wealth pools at the top among the CEO. You're lucky if it drips down. You're lucky if it drips. It's pissel down economics, basically.
Right. But I notice Ronnie has another comment, and I bet it's in response to what I said. You know, what is it that I said that, you know, anarcho-capitalism and libertarianism is a crock of horse shit? Okay, Ronnie, so I'll go ahead and I'll explain exactly why anarcho-capitalism and even libertarianism is a crock of shit. Okay, let's take the base premises. We're going to start at a base, and then we're going to work ourselves out. This is why I have great debate skills. Okay, so first we're going to get down to the base of what libertarianism is, regardless of whether it's right-wing libertarianism or left-wing libertarianism, which is what I used to be, a left-wing libertarianism. So libertarianism is solely based on the principle of self-freedom socially and economically. Period. That is the whole entire basis of what libertarianism is, regardless of whether it is left-wing or right-wing. Now, there are some variations and debate as to, what quantifies and qualifies as social as well as economic freedom. But here's where you run into a huge problem with libertarianism. If you are solely protecting 100% of everybody's personal freedoms and economic freedoms, your society is going to collapse in on itself for two reasons. One, you're going to have a big conflict internally among that particular party because there is no basis outside of it's everybody's personal freedom socially and economically. So therefore, that ultimately leads to a lot of liberalism. Well, we've seen exactly what happens when liberalism sticks its teeth into everything. Your society is going to collapse under its own ideology. It's going to become self-destructive internally, but it's also going to turn outwardly destructive as well, because you will have no morals, you will have no ethics, you will have ultimately no state to ultimately enforce any laws of anything. Now, what was that comment that had just previously showed up?
Okay. First he said the burden of taxation shouldn't be on anyone. Well, somebody has to pay the taxes. It shouldn't be the little guy. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the main struggle throughout history has been between the power of the state and the power of the people. Socialism, unfortunately, gives more power to the state. Do you trust a CEO more than you trust government? Something to think about.
Right. Okay. So this is another right-wing argument I hear a lot. So you're saying, therefore, socialism is the only authoritarian government that has ever existed throughout history. Any government out there can be authoritarian or even totalitarian. So to put it in another perspective, you're basically trying to quote what Karl Marx was saying, that the whole entire history of the human race is the history of class struggle. Well, class struggle can happen under any system of government. That's not specifically a characteristic of socialism. And then, secondly, capitalism in itself is even a class struggle between the little guy, the proletarian, and the bourgeoisie. The basis of libertarianism is property rights. Yes and no. Libertarianism, like I said, it's based on 100% social and economic freedoms. Property rights are also tied into that as well. Now, if you have a libertarianistic society, particularly an anarcho-capitalistic libertarian society, what state or what rule of force is there to protect said individual property rights? What really stops someone from the top echelons of society from coming down and taking your property? It's not there. And then also, when you have the whole entire basis of anything and everything goes, it's my rights, my freedom, my property rights, it's just going to create a bunch of internal conflict, and it's just going to be a fucking bloody mess.
Sounds like the founding fathers. All men are created equal, but the disclaimer should say only all rich white men, not Native Americans, not women, and not blacks. Only, and not no other races. Only rich white men, landowners, like the founding fathers were, are created.
Exactly, but like I said, property rights are part of your personal as well as economic freedoms. It is a right to own property, regardless of whether it's left-wing or right. Oh, let's see here. Democracy is also a failure. Power of the majority over the minority. Okay. So the reason why democracy has failed is because, you know, the top echelons of society have always corrupted the majority. You know, they want to stick their teeth into a majority idea and corrupt it and poison it to where the minority does not want to buy into a majority idea and where you ultimately create a big antagonism. So democracy can work. You can make any system work, okay? But it all depends upon two things. One, theory, practice, theory. Then secondly, who you have in charge of executing said system. Because that is everything. Yeah, you can have democracy that is free and peaceful. You can also have democracy that is also, you know, very fascistic and authoritarian and totalitarian. Same thing with socialism. You can have private police more efficient than any government sector BS police we have today. You're making the case more for capitalism and why it's so inherently flawed every time you make a comment. So please stop. You're not helping your case here.
Is that the same as like the rich hiring their own henchmen, their own private mercenary?
Yes, and then also PMCs, private military corporations. You know, a lot of the ones that do the black ops stuff around the world and things like that, to where they adhere to no governments, no constitution, no rules of law, things like that, as well as the American Empire socialist military all over the world, making the world safe for democracy.
Safe? You know what it is? It's an occupation by the military industrial complex to steal other countries' natural resources. That's what it is. All these military bases, the almost 800 some odd military bases around the world, is an occupation to big oil. They're in bed with big oil.
Okay, I mean, this comment right here just really made me facepalm. The American Empire Socialist Military. Have you not understood this thing called imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism? Seriously? Like, everywhere the world has become capitalist, and then they develop a higher stage of capitalism to where they turn imperialist to enforce their will on other people. That has always been the case. Yes, the Soviet Union in the later years became what is called social imperialist, where, you know, Karl Marx, Vladimir Lenin, Friedrich Engels, nobody in the world honestly thought that socialism itself would turn social imperialistic. But it happened because of one person, Leon Trotsky. There was a huge schism between Leninism and Trotskyism. Leninism was socialism in one country, one material conditions for that particular country, to where, you know, every country had to fight their own battles and then become socialist and ultimately communist in their own way to ultimately create a one world communistic society. Well, Trotskyism is the exact opposite of that. Trotskyism is global revolution and a constant state of revolution, meaning that there's opportunity for the bourgeoisie to come in and completely derail the revolution and turn it into ultimately another revolution for the bourgeois class to come back in and ultimately take power. Then they also want to have a global revolution and support all global revolutions. Well, I'm sorry, you don't need to support 100% of all global revolutions, because when you do that, you're not only draining resources from your country, I can't even word right because I'm getting so worked up. You are also ultimately going to allow the bourgeois class to not only come in and derail your own revolution, which is exactly what happened in the Soviet Union. See, the Soviet Union did not collapse because of an inherent flaw. of socialism. It was corrupted internally because of Trotskyism, and then turning social imperialism, and then ultimately becoming liberal to where it just collapsed on itself due to internal antagonisms. So I'm sorry, but your right-wing arguments are not holding any water here.
Okay, we're going to take a relaxation beverage break. Mr. Owens, you drinking Natty Ice? Okay, and you have anything to say about Natty Ice?
Yes, I do. Granted, yeah, it's made by the big boys, but people are like, well, why do you buy something from the big boys? Isn't that against socialism? No. Nothing under socialism says, you can't buy things. I mean, you can buy whatever you want as your personal property. And if you want to indulge in a mass-produced beer, so what? Say you even want to indulge in craft beer, so what? Actually, in fact, if Anheuser-Busch, InBev, Molson Coors, Miller Coors were fucking taken over and the means of production were collectivized, that ultimately would ensure jobs for the individuals who are working there as factory workers, to where, they can ultimately have job security because, people will be buying their products as part of trade unions. So not only would the means of production be seized and collectivized and become under state control, but also under the workers' control, there would be a trade union also involved, to where, we'll buy X amount of your product for, X amount of our product. That's how trade unions work to ultimately ensure job security. So with that little argument being said, it's a mass-produced beer. It's a budget beer. Nothing really special. It's, regular old American beer with a higher ABV at 5.9%. I mean, tastes like a regular old beer. Nothing really special to it. I did a formal review of it, but I mean, the overall profile is, it's just, most people would say it's beer, tastes like beer, therefore it must be beer.
Yeah, well, Damian Owens is starting to accumulate many great review videos on his YouTube channel, and he's also an avid gamer, high-end gamer. Okay, now Trotskyism led to neoconservatism, which led to the Iraq War.
I'm sorry, but no. You mean neoliberalism led to the Iraq War, which was ultimately started by Thatcher and Reagan because the First World wanted too much out of capitalism. Therefore, capitalism did not want to provide said benefits. So therefore, they outsourced jobs to the Third World because they knew the Third World would take the longer hours and the shittier pay. Now, neoliberalism is the exploitation of not only the Third World, but also the First World. And then what also makes it more dangerous is where imperialism is the highest stage of capitalism, when there is a falling rate of profit. That's why there are wars, to make up for the falling rate of profit. And there's going to be a huge war coming in the 2020s and even also the 2030s, the resource wars. Because the falling rate of profit for the bourgeois class has become so significant that they're having to not only fight the Third World, they're also having to fight among themselves to make it for the falling rate of profit, which is ultimately going to be their downfall. Now, when this resource war happens in the 2020s and 2030s, it's going to be over everything. Anything you think of you can make money off of, that is the resource war. It's going to be over things like food, clothing, shelter. It's going to be also over water, natural resources, renewable and non-renewable resources, just to make money, because capitalism is failing. We are in so much debt, and now they can't exploit the Third World because the Third World is fighting back. They have exploited the Third World to the point to where they can't extract any more value or any more capital out of it. Now they're having to turn those tools onto the First World, and First Worldists are taking it to a point, but for how long? there's going to be a point where even the first world is going to fight back. Because now we're seeing what has been the result of that. The first world, yeah, they're accepting it for now. But how far is the first world going to be pushed before we fight back? Material conditions are getting worse in the first world. Yes, we benefited off of the exploitation of the third world. That's so we had a higher standard of living. Well, that is no longer the case. We ourselves are now being exploited, not in the exact same way the third world was, but eventually that will happen. We're going to see the loss of social programs to where now it really is going to be the rich and the poor. Is it going to happen in the 2020s? Yes. Is it definitely going to happen in the 2030s? Yes. The 2020s is going to be the main part of the war to where we see the fall of better material conditions in the first world. But the 2030s, that's when ultimately we're going to really see the divide between the rich and the poor really take place. So with all that being said, the 2020s and the 2030s, this is not going to be a good 2 decades ahead of us. It's not going to happen. In fact, if anything, that's when the Second American Revolution or the Second American Civil War is going to happen. And in fact, it's probably going to be the most bloodiest conflict of human history, at least for the 21st century, if not this millennium of human history. I mean, millions of lives are going to be killed at this expense of falling rate of profit.
And I'm glad you brought that point up. Let me go to Michael. Johnny Ringo. Hi, Johnny Ringo. Are you still supporting Tom Steyer? He doesn't stand a chance of getting nominated, but I like what he says. He sounds very progressive. And like I said before, early on in the show, I don't trust a multi-billionaire businessman as a political leader, but I like what comes out of Tom Steyer's mouth.
I like Amy Klobuchar.
Right. I'm going to use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Amy Klobuchar. Oh, you made the one that shakes with a nasal voice. Well, she's a moderate. She's a centrist Democrat.
She's a centrist. Right.
No, she's not. She's not a progressive at all. Elizabeth Warren is more to the left of her. Yeah, she's a centrist, like Joe Biden. Barack Obama was a centrist.
She's more electable than Joe Biden. She could pull an Obama. Biden could not pull an. People don't elect vice presidents. The last time that happened, he ended up violating his tax pledge.
Well, look at how dopey Mike Pence is. Mike Pence makes no sense. He first of all, he's a zealot, evangelical zealot, religious fanatic.
Just like Dick Cheney. Just like Dick Cheney was not president.
Yeah. Vice presidents, they don't have. You know what I noticed, Mike Hilton? The presidents usually Michael Hilton. Presidents usually don't delegate much responsibility to the VP, to the vice presidents. I think the first ladies seem like they're busier and more in the spotlight than the vice presidents are.
Oh yeah.
I mean, isn't it?
Not that much. Mrs. Trump or Matt Trump or whatever is not as much in the spotlight as Mrs. Obama was. She didn't have. Ron, yes, you don't need to recognize there's a difference between capitalism and crony capitalism. We live under a crony capitalist system.
True. Yeah.
The failure of such may lead to a rise up of social. Well, yeah, socialism is a failure of capitalism. That makes sense. So when it says failing, they're going to look for.
I'm back.
Crony capitalism. You see, with Donald Trump, you have nepotism, cronyism.
Well,
you have all the above with him.
We're going from Trump to Sanders in a year's time. That sounds a little bit extreme. What's your view? It does strike me.
Well, myself and Damian Owens are socialists anyway, so I'm a little bit more to the left than Bernie Sanders, but I see what Trump is like, a despot. what is it, autocrat. He thinks he acts like he's the emperor of the universe. You know, he wants to make his own rules, his own laws. He's above the law. He wants to hire and fire who kisses his ass, depending how far you crawl up his rectum. You know, if you crawl up his rectum, he loves you, gives you a job. You know, otherwise he goes on Twitter and in the middle of the night and bashes you. But I think people are folding like cheap cameras, and you don't deal with a bully by being a coward. You have to pretty much get in their face. Amy's got the shakes. Yeah, shake, rattle, and roll.
I like strawberry milkshake. I like a tasty shake. Shakes are delicious, but
yeah. Well, I went to Dairy Queen.
Most centrists are fake. They are fake. They're unelectable because they're actually protecting the system more than anybody who stands for something a little bit more than they do. Mitt Romney tried to be a centrist, but he, to quote Trump for a second, he choked.
Yeah. Well, Obama is a corporate. Yeah. Ronnie says Obama's a corporatist. Absolutely. Amy's got the shakes. Even Kamala, not the wrestler, the Ugandan giant Kamala. He died. God rest his soul. Kamala Harris. You know, you know what bothered me about Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and even Elizabeth Warren? Anyone that gets too melodramatic in public speaking.
Yeah.
It's like watching a really bad car dealer commercial or an infomercial, like the Flex Seal guy. You know, when they're too melodramatic, they have something to hide.
They're a good economy, so I think they're trying to really push points forward because they know they're running against a really good economy.
But they're not really working for the 98%. They're a centrist is on the take. I'm sure that the insurance companies are paying off these Democrats to be against single payer Medicare for all. I'm sure. Mike Bloomberg wants he wants a stand to. I love him and Donald Trump trading insults. You know, I mean, he's very short. He probably has a Napoleonic complex, and he wants to be elevated. So Trump says, well, where's the stand for all the others? Well, then that will make them like giants. And Mike Bloomberg will be like, follow the yellow brick road. Follow. You know?
But I also want to point out that Michael Bloomberg is also a former Republican, just to let everybody know.
Yes, and he's the one that started the stop and frisk law in New York City, where he profiled against brown people of color. Stop and frisk.
Yep, right-wing liberalism.
With the Clintons with the crime bill, in a way. So what makes some centrists work while other centrists they're not electable? I don't.
What do you call? They're like the police become like fascist stormtroopers. You know, profiling is not a justifiable suspicion to search someone's car or pull them over. You know, I mean, if they're suspicious, not because of their race, if they're acting suspicious or they're doing something suspicious, that's one thing. You know, many. I really love it because I'm not a fan of either of the two. Trump called Bloomberg a mini man. Well, he does have cute nicknames for everyone. Adam Schiff is Shifty Schiff. Nancy, he stopped calling her Nervous Nancy, but she does have the shakes also. She's another centrist, Nancy Pelosi. She's another one who's on getting the big mamu, you know, getting her palms greased.
Well, what would you think about her running for president?
Hell no. She first of all, she's not for free public university education and health care for all. She's not. She wants, like Hillary Clinton, she wants people to pay and go into student debt. And, the job market is shit. The economy is shit. There's no way they're going to pay off. There's no way they're going to pay off the student loans. There's no way they're going to pay off the student loans. It's like almost $100,000. And why are all these? They say that young women, have the largest amount of student loans to pay off. Why do these women or these girls pick these obscure, ridiculous courses in college that are not even in demand? And there's no chance in hell they're going to get hired as an entry-level person when they graduate. And, they pick things that sound interesting to them, and then they go into deep debt. And then you know what? They go on Tinder looking for a sugar daddy to pay off their student loan. Johnny Ringo says, Michael Bloomberg is a former Republican and Trump is a former Democrat.
Yes, that actually is a fact. You can look it up.
Very interesting. Kamala Harris. Trump was funding Kamala Harris as recently as 2014.
I don't know about that, but I would look into that.
But Kamala Harris is not a progressive. And you know what? Cory Booker, I remember when he was the mayor of Newark. He didn't do shit for Newark. You know what he did? He had private meetings with Krispy Kreme, Crisco, Chris Christie. And after he had private meetings with Chris Christie, he started closing public schools throughout Newark, New Jersey. Nancy Pelosi is fine with the entire Trump agenda. Yeah, I like the way she handles Trump. But
yes,
she did
Johnny.
Speech. Oh, wow, that was great. You know what? She didn't rip up his speech aggressive enough, Johnny Ringo. I would have went like this. I would have held it up over my head and went 1, 2, 3. I would have ripped it up into quarters. And I would have went whammo right in the garbage can like this. Put a little oomph into it.
What's your view about Congress rejecting the president giving the State of the Union? He's not allowed to. Maybe because of his conduct during the previous SOTU. Perhaps
the speech, the both back-to-back speeches were nothing but gloating and bragging, braggadocious. He said he's not braggadocious in one of his old tweets, but it was about him. So it's always about him. He was bragging quite a bit. Oh, the economy hasn't been this good because of me. Everything. I'm the greatest president in the history of the country. I'm this. I'm that. That's basically what his speeches were.
Right. Well, if you're ready for a Donald Trump impersonation, I can do probably not the best one out there, but I can do a very excellent one if anyone is interested.
Are you ready to do it?
Sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
I can do just about any impersonation if I set my mind to it. So Donald Trump. Hello, America. My name is Donald Trump. But you know what? I'm not just the only Donald Trump out there. I'm the most Donald of Donald Trumps. No one is better than me. I'm the most Donald of Donald Trumps. See that man out there who's Donald Trump? He's nothing like me. He's crap. He's un-American because you know what? He supports Hillary. Then you know what else, America? If you were to Photoshop my lips onto my eyes, you would notice absolutely no difference.
And does President Trump, is that roadkill on your head, or is that your real hair?
I don't know, James. You tell me. Is it roadkill on my head, or do I just have a toupee? Because if you keep making fun of my toupee, there will be hell to pay.
Hell to pay. Now, is it true that you were banging Stormy Daniels while your wife Melania was ready to give birth to Barron? Is that true that you were taking your little Vienna sausage and sticking it into Stormy Daniels?
I don't know, James. You tell me. Yeah, I have small hands, but you know what? If I have small hands, you know what's going to look big in my hand, James?
What?
I shouldn't have to say anything else, but I want to talk about that for just a moment, because you know what? That Stormy Daniels, she's nothing but trouble. Beautiful, but nothing but trouble.
And I saw a show before you ever thought of running for president where you had a gold toilet seat in your apartment at Trump Tower in New York City. You had a gold toilet seat. Isn't that showing off in the capitalist society to have a gold toilet seat?
Yes, James, you're absolutely right. I love showing off about all my stuff I have under this capitalist society. You know what? Because you know why I have a gold toilet seat? Because I shit and piss excellent, James. That's exactly why.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, President Trump, for visiting with us.
I'm sorry, but
That was
I
actually-
even cracked myself up doing that.
Wait a minute. Nancy Pelosi. All right, hold on. All right. Stool. Pelosi stood up for Trump's handpicked president of Venezuela. Pathetic. Yeah. What about the coup? Was it Bolivia? The United States stuck in.
Venezuela.
Oh, this is Reaganism again. What Reagan did, doing it again. The campaign in South America taking over.
Bernie impersonator.
Bernie impersonation?
No.
Oh, okay.
You know who does a great Bernie Sanders impersonator? Trevor Noah on the Daily Show.
I mean, I can do a little bit of one, but I'll wait.
State Bernie, if you guys are.
I don't have any prop for Bernie, but you know what? Bernie's got a distinctive way of talking, and
he does have a very distinctive way of his political.
My name is Bernie Sanders. Yes, I am. I grew in a rent stabilized apartment in Brooklyn, New York. Yeah, something of that.
Can we get a
I
Bernie
mean,
impersonation? Yes, I think you can get a.
I mean, yeah, I could do one, but I'll wait.
Yeah, the 1% and the 99. Can we get it? All right, now, Michael, how was your beverage? What do you rate it? How do you rate it, and what is your take on the experience?
Well, James, I'm glad that you asked that question. I'm very glad that you asked that question. What I would say about this beverage, I think I would rate it a very solid 97, because it is about the 97%. So, because we're talking about the 97%, I'm gonna give this very good. I think northeastern beer a 97. I think it will be a 97. And that's all we're going to talk about that. So.
That wasn't bad.
Okay, that was actually really good. But since he tried his, I'll try my attempt at Bernie
See
Sanders.
what you got.
Okay. Let's see here. Let me think. Bernie Sanders. How to talk and think like Bernie Sanders. Okay. Thank you, everybody. My name is Bernie Sanders, and you know what? I'm going to fix the infrastructure. You know how I'm going to do this, everybody? I am going to do this by giving everybody 10-piece McNuggets from McDonald's with honey mustard sauce. That's how I'm going to fix the infrastructure. No, not really. I just wanted to throw it out just for comedic relief. But how am I really going to fix the infrastructure? But that is an excellent question. And here is how I'm going to do it. You see, the top 1% has always hoarded the American wealth. And they've also ruined the American dream for the 99%. Now, with all of that being said, everybody, the top 1%, when they always hoard the wealth, they do it in a very capitalistic manner. However, there is also one other difference about that I must also address, that I never address in any of my other speeches. That is, I am the savior of capitalism. And I don't want to actually address the real issues of capitalism. I just want the people to be pacifized. So they don't actually rebel against said system, to where we can actually reinstate capitalism, to where people buy into it and believe it again. That is my agenda.
Okay. Oh, great copper dividing rods. Are you in the mood to answer questions during this live show? Yes. Copper dividing rods. Was it true before, when we were saying that the real backbone of the American economy, the true consumers and job producers, are the middle class, the 98%, and not the top 2%? Okay. Was it also true, divining rods, that trickle down economics is big bullshit lie, and it always has been. Yes. Is capitalism, was it always rigged by the top 2% against the asses of the masses? Yes. Is everyone in the did Tom Perez and the DNC deliberately try to sabotage Bernie Sanders in the Iowa caucus?
Neutral.
It's not saying anything. Was it incompetency of the Iowa Democrat Party that? Yeah. Oh really? Yeah, because they're a bunch of inbred fucking shit. Do you think that my plan of taking all those idiots, all those flag waving, stupid, dumber than a bag of rocks people out there in America, and stick them right in front of the super volcano at Yellowstone and just tie them down until it blows? You think that's a good idea? Yes.
Until it blows.
Until it blows, or maybe. Well, man, yeah, but then what if it takes forever to blow? Oh, what about my idea of capital punishment called pickling people to death? You like that? As a slow torture from the vinegar and the pickling spice. So instead of crucifixion, pickling would be a slower death, right? Divining Rods?
We're getting into George Carlin territory now.
Yes, pickling.
Will Trump be a one-term?
Pickling is my patented capital punishment.
Was just about to ask if Trump was about to be a one-term president, and then you put the rods away.
There, hold on, Metal Rocker. There, Ronnie, you got it. Okay, now ask a question, Miguel.
Well, let's see if it's not still too late. Will Trump be a one-term? That's a yes or no question. Turn it into a qualifying question.
They never spoke before.
About Trump being a one-term president. Oh shit.
What do
you know?
Now Donald Trump, does he really does he spend way more time on the golf course than what he accused Barack Obama of doing? So is he a pathological? Wait, is he a deliberate liar? Okay. Now, is he is he a pathological liar where he lies and he's not really responsible for what he says? So he's deliberate. That means no. When it goes away from each other, it means no.
So at least the man's at least got a conscience, I guess.
Yeah. He is he going to try, if he is voted out of office, Donald Trump, is he going to try to go back to Celebrity Apprentice to be the host?
Will he leave office? Will he actually leave if he is supposed to in January of 2021? Or will he stay despite being told by security to move?
Wait a minute. You got to be more. You got to consolidate the questions. Remember when he told Arnold Schwarzenegger that the ratings plummeted when he took over Celebrity Apprentice? Yeah, consolidate the question. Don't give the Gettysburg Address.
Well, I like the Gettysburg Address, but will Trump actually leave if he loses in 2021? Oh. They think he's actually going to.
Because they say he's gonna he'll be like screaming and kicking. They'll have out of the White House.
Yeah, he's not going to go.
Now,
forcibly removed.
What? Now, here's a good question. The Second Amendment. when Damian Owens was explaining to me that not only libertarians, but the far left wing progressives and the mainstream population, Damian explained that when shit hits the fan, people are going to they're going to see how important the Second Amendment is, because we are going to have a rogue government. You agree with that, Divining Rods? Yes. So that means that people, when they're up against the fascist stormtroopers of the oligarch of capitalism, they're going to need heavy-duty, sophisticated firearms in their possession. Yes. Oh, okay. So I thought so. So not just for hunting. You're talking about, real firearms. Yes. Okay.
Will Amy Klobuchar be president?
What do you got a crush on her? Will Amy Klobuchar? Will Amy Klobuchar be president?
Well, it seems like they're agreeing with me. I know you aren't, but
Wait a minute. It's not done yet. It's not done yet. No.
Okay.
Uncertain.
Interesting questions, but I've got a couple for the Divining Rods. Okay, Divining Rods. So I've noticed that, this is not an insult. I'm not here to insult you. But I've noticed some of the things you have said have not came true or have not been correct. So let's go ahead and, let's kind of get down to where things went wrong. So, Divining Rods. Remember when you said that Trump was going to be impeached and then removed from office?
Holy shit. Holy fuck.
No.
I remember it. Okay, so Divining Rods. Okay, so you were wrong on that, but you still hold the belief that Trump is going to be a one-term president.
Yeah.
Okay, so why is it you feel as though he will be a one-term president? Is it because he survived impeachment? Interesting. I'll let him reset. So, are the American people seeing through his facade that they made a mistake for voting for him in the first place?
Oh, shit.
Okay. All right. Next question. So, will Bernie Sanders win the next presidency? It's very bold. That is extremely bold to say that he'd win the next presidency.
Will Bernie Sanders will the massive amount of supporters overcome sabotage by the DNC and the top 1%? Will there be civil unrest in this campaign as they try to sabotage Bernie Sanders? Yes. Will my fantasy come true that the Bernie Bros would become militant? Oh yes, Bernie Bros. Start kicking ass, please. Especially that Whoopi Goldberg. Remember that thing with Elizabeth Warren? Hey, you said a woman can't be elected. What a stupid. She was crying like a baby. The fake Pocahontas. That fake what a fake phony Native American she is. Yeah, she knew the microphone was live, and she says, "You lied to me on national TV saying that a woman can't be elected." Shut your fucking mouth. She's got like a long gooseneck.
Melodramatic.
Yeah, melodramatic, and she got a gooseneck that bobs like this. Yeah, what a crybaby, petty, emotional female thing to say. You know, to bring up something like that when the whole country is in dire straits. To bring up something silly like that. Can a female be elected? Of course, females can be elected. They've been elected.
Yeah, Speaker Pelosi is three away from the presidency. So
many females were elected in Congress through our revolution. There are definitely female governors that have been elected. There are
what about Gina Raimondo or Kate Brown or
female senator, females in the Senate. There are females. Female politicians are getting elected all over. And she was desperate, so she had to play the gender card and hit Bernie in the old Rocky Mountain oysters, and she had a low blow, and she had to get petty because desperation, because her polls are down and her donations are down, and she's doing pathetic now, and I think Tom Steyer is just having fun.
Right. Well, I mean. Yeah, I mean, not to interrupt, but I do want to elaborate on one thing. I mean, it's not a question for the dividing line, but I do want to elaborate on something.
Yeah.
I do think females can ultimately win a political office and can be just as competent as men at doing the job. But here's one thing that you have to realize as a female, if you were...
Their thinking is based on emotion, where a man's thinking is based on logic.
Yes, and that's one point I was getting ready to get at, is a woman can definitely be just as competent as a man at doing a political job. There is no doubt about that. And a woman can do just about anything she sets her mind to. But it's all about making sure your logic and your emotions are in check. So, can a woman become president? Yes, absolutely. But would just any woman become president? No. Absolutely not.
And is America ready in 2020 for a female president of the United States? I say not yet.
It would depend. It would depend upon the actual individual who'd be running for president. Now, would Elizabeth Warren or any of the female candidates we have running for president really be suit to fit? Not really, because of two reasons. You know, a lot of these positions have always been predominantly male, which have become more alpha types. So, for a female to fit this role, she would have to take on more of an alpha female role. Now, would she have to take on 100% of an alpha female role? No, she wouldn't necessarily have to do that. However, she would have to adapt to a little bit more of a masculine personality, a little bit more of a masculine presentation. Now, she can still be in touch with her feminine side. Like, you know, if she wants to do her hair, do her nails, makeup, yes. But she would definitely have to know when to get down and dirty and when to really know when to hold them and know when to fold. Now, with men, a lot of men know when to hold, but a lot of men don't know when to fold. Now, I think with some women, they would probably master that art pretty well. Know when to hold, know when to fold. However, there is another issue. Now, granted, she can definitely rile up the female populace to get the female vote, but I can definitely tell you where she will not win if she were to ever become president as a female. She would never win over the hearts of a real feminine woman. You know, the ones that are like real pretty, real yuppie, things like that. She won't win over those types. But, you know, she would also gain respect from, you know, your more moderate women to even your more masculine women. And she would even also win over men to a certain extent. because she'll be taking on a role that's been predominantly male oriented throughout history. But a lot of men would ultimately gain respect if she knew how to hang like the guys, knew how to really be aggressive like the guys. But still, here's another place where she may or she may not win. If at any point she became a little too feminine or she became a little too compassionate, that might be her downfall. And she'd have to present it in a very masculine way. But if she did it correctly, she could definitely win over. So that's in terms of political office. Now, I know a lot of people want to talk about, should women be in the military? Or should they be on the front lines? I would say yes and no. It's not for every woman, but if a woman thinks she's got what it takes, she can hack it. I mean, I'm not going to stand in her way. I mean, she's a woman. She has every right as a man to make her own decisions and do what she wants. So if she thinks she can hack it, fine. If she don't, oh well, she'll still get an E in my book for trying. I can respect a woman who would set forth the effort and actually make an attempt, but if later on she knew she couldn't do it, I'd say, you know what, you did it, you tried, you still get an E for effort. At least you made the effort.
Well, they can aim and pull the trigger. They can at least do that. I mean,
exactly.
As far as the crisis of battle, when your buddy next to you gets hit, and I mean, they'll pitch in, but you got to understand when these soldiers are out. Let's say the ones in Afghanistan, they're walking in temperatures that are above 100 degrees, carrying a lot of weight, and for a long period of time, without any bathing of any kind, and between the backpack and the rifle, and dealing with the heat, losing electrolytes as you're walking in the heat, and I mean, I don't think a woman's role can ever match, like say, a Navy SEAL or any special forces,
right?
Green Beret,
exactly. But I know exactly where a woman's role on the battlefield would be perfect, and in fact, there's a lot of historical evidence to back this up.
Yeah,
a woman on the front lines could actually be very useful in terms of reconnaissance as well as sniping for two reasons. One, they can be very detail oriented in terms of giving away enemy positions as well as giving the scenarios and situations of which they could win or lose a potential outcome of a battle. Two, now, women with their also very detailed orientedness and being very peculiar and particular, they can be very useful snipers. And in fact, one of the best snipers ever in history during World War II was a woman in the Red Army. She had well over 100 confirmed kills in World War II. Her particular choice of weapon, a Mosin Nagant with a sniper scope on it, which is an excellent battle rifle. So, that being said, that's where a lot of women played a historical role, particularly under socialism, whenever it came to World War II. They were excellent snipers, and they were also great in terms of reconnaissance. There were also women divisions of the Red Army who actually did fight on the front lines, and they actually did a great job at it. Now, were these women very prithy, liberal types? No, absolutely not. They were bound and determined to defeat the enemy. And when you're bound and determined to defeat the enemy, that's not just a male or female thing. When someone sets their mind to do something, they're going to do it. They're going to pull through. That's not just a thing that only men do. Women can do the exact same thing. It's all about the particular woman and the right mindset to do so.
Well, of course, they had the Russian winters on their side too, like Napoleon did. But yeah, you're right. But as far as expecting them to have the same upper body strength, no. Endurance, yes. It is possible. Like you said, can they be a Apache helicopter pilot or a pilot in the Air Force? I say yes. You know, but they have to be able to push all of their emotion in on the back burner when during a crisis, during times of high stress, or when they have to make quick decisions that emotion would interfere with. You know, quick decisions.
We are way over masculinizing our women, and we are way over feminizing our men.
Right. That's one thing we've talked about in our shows. You know,
The metrosexuals, when they were joking about that on South Park.
Wait, not that. It's a switch. It's a realignment. We have a realignment happening. Let me sit in a way that's a little bit more.
You know how the realignment happens? Single mothers that where the son doesn't have any male role models around. None. And
That was me. Yeah, that was me.
And the mother is putting down the boy's father that he probably doesn't really know, you know, bashing him and trying to feminize, trying to mold their son into the kind of beta chimpanzee that the red pill coaches say that they want them to be. Beta chimpanzee would be when a woman says, I want a chivalrous gentleman to court me and do this and do that and do this and do that. On Tinder, they do that. Give me a break.
Questions for the rods, for the divine rods. Also.
Oh, yeah, the divining rods. These women that put in their profiles on dating apps that they want a gentleman, a chivalrous gentleman to court them, and they want they want to be treated like the lady that they are. Are they really saying they want a sucker that they can control in a relationship? Whoa, that was a big yes. Almost whacked me. So
arms are moving, dude.
So it's a female scam that they use the whole gentleman bullshit that died out probably many decades ago. It's a female's scam to try to sucker men to pay for everything and do everything. Yes. Okay. And the men that go ahead and do it and pursue them and chase them and give them everything they want, are these men just desperate to get in their panties and get laid?
If a woman becomes president, will women stop being so manly, and will men stop being so girly all the time?
Girls were girls and men were men. Those were the days.
Boys will be boys. No, boys will be women now, and women will be boys now, because nobody knows what the hell anybody.
Boys will be trannies. Is that it?
No.
Oh, was that a neoliberal fiasco when they invented the all gender restroom at a college university?
Honestly, a lot of the time it's one toilet. It's one toilet. Not even multiple.
It was neoliberal. So it was neoliberal. Now, was I correct by saying that spelled trouble all over? That it was trouble was bound to happen. Of course, trouble was bound to happen.
Yeah. See, I like to respect this thing called privacy, and when you're a man or a woman in the bathroom, I'm gonna give you your privacy.
Yeah, if you're standing in front of a urinal, and it's very awkward when women, especially attractive women, they walk by and you're standing in front of the urinal and you're shaking the droplets off when you're done because you don't want to trickle down economics into your underwear. And it's very awkward. And perverts will exploit the all-gender bathroom, and it's ridiculous. Is the all-gender bathroom similar to all these laws against men, but in terms of being created by man-hating feminists? Okay.
Now,
The
why do women want men to be so separate from them half the time? But you can.
Well, the dykes. It is all these sexual harassment
But sure,
is sexual harassment really it's started by the man-hating feminist that wants to sabotage heterosexual relationships? Yes, I thought so. Yeah, because a guy can't say nothing to a hot-looking female coworker. So in other words, they're the reason why men get fired for saying anything to a hot-looking, buxomy coworker whose breasts are ready to fall out.
Oh yeah, I mean, at least around in my area, I mean, there's been times where I've been like, you know what, your outfit, it's spot on. You know, you're looking great today. I mean, no one's ever said that, you know, I'm being harassed or anything.
Now, a school teacher, because now when these women ganged up on me on Facebook, calling me a misogynist because I said that too many single mothers are allowing their daughters to dress like prostitutes on their way to school. And I said, they're looking for trouble. They're going to get negative attention, the wrong attention. And were they full of crap by calling me a misogynist? Yeah. So yeah. I was right about inappropriate attire by women in the workplace and in the classroom. Was I correct about inappropriate attire?
Well, I mean, they do it to feel good, and they do it to get attention from girls, not from other girls.
Well, it's the attention that they're after. It's not. So, is it true that girls dressed that way are just trying to compete with other women for attention?
Yeah, I could have told you that, but I mean, in all honesty, how is it you're being misogynist by just saying, you know, maybe you should not let your daughter be dressing in this very inappropriate manner because she is inadvertently or overtly going to attract this negative attention. Now,
likes it or not, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this negative attention, I mean, did you go into specifics about this negative attention?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, what did you say about it?
I typed it out. I just what we're talking about right now. I typed it out that whether the girl likes it or not, she's asking for trouble by dressing that way because she will start attracting the wrong attention, unwanted attention, possibly someone who will mean to do her harm.
Exactly.
And they just because I was criticizing single parents. Oh, was I right about single parents without a father around? A male role model? Yes. Yep. Okay. So all this crap that's going on with the single mothers and all this shit and the laws against men and the judicial system throwing a book at men, this is all created by the man-hating feminists that the politicians are listening to?
Yeah, I could have told you that, but I mean, in all honesty,
is it neoliberals? Is it neoliberalism that's responsible for these lesbians doing their dirty deeds? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, but I could have told you that, but to just further elaborate, I mean,
we want people to see mysticism too.
Right. Well, just to kind of further elaborate. Now, I don't know about you two, but you know, my wife, yeah, she's a little bit of a tomboy, but you know, she's also in touch with her feminine side. And she also likes to identify as being like bi-gender and bi-fluid, meaning, you know, she has masculine and feminine traits and she could portray either one. However, for me, here's just something I really like. See, for me, it is outright sexy if a woman is masculine and feminine at the same time. Now, I know this may sound a little weird, but I'll elaborate.
Like Ronda Rousey.
Yes. So, if a woman, if she does her hair and her makeup, that's fine. That's a woman thing, more power to them. But I also like it if a woman, likes to, hunt, shoot guns, work on cars,
Things.
or can be independent and do things for herself, where she doesn't have to rely upon a man 100% for everything. Where, if she does want to work, she does want to be independent to a certain extent, and, wants to make decisions for herself. But yet, here's where I draw the line. You know, when you expose a man or a woman to either too much femininity or masculinity, you expose them too much masculinity, they become chauvinists. You expose them to too much femininity, then they turn into man-hating feminists, as James was talking about. So if you expose them to the right balance of the two, it's actually ideal, but it's also very sexy. I mean, not to be misogynist, but to a certain extent, it is sexually attractive. Hashtag man boner.
It's what it's like. It's like a dominatrix. Like it's a dominatrix kind of a fantasy. Now Michael Hilton, we did a show all about sexual fetishes, and it went very well. And of course it's recorded and it's since on the internet.
Oh.
Uh, uh, Now the thing with the daughters is absolutely true. You get these girls going to school and going to junior high or high school, and they got the belly showing with the hip bones and everything, the cleavage and everything. They're just asking for trouble. They're unwanted attention. Now let me just show Michael what I brought. Same thing I brought for Thundering Thursday, the Japanese beer. That combine wheat and barley, Ginga Kogan, premium unfiltered beer, and it comes in this lovely cobalt blue bottle, which will go on my living room windowsill with the other one that I drank.
Looks like Sky Vodka.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's got the reindeer logo, and it's good. It's really good. It has like a lot of wheat beers, especially German wheat beers. It has that floral and
Yeah.
citrusy aroma and flavor. Yeah. So
Kind of a little bit spicy. Yeah, about women going out. I will never assume, honestly, that a woman who dresses provocatively is trying to provoke me, because I know that's especially because I try to be people know me. I'm pretty social with women.
yeah.
And if if you open one and you compliment her, that may be okay, a little iffy, but then maybe it's about a blouse that she wears. That's risky. I I'm always trying to go the indirect route, talk about something other than looks. It will still get a reaction sometimes, though. That's a disagreement. The issue with
Yeah.
I think
Like
that men may be actually getting a little feminine with how they're noticing women a little bit too much sometimes. So hence, clothing, for example.
because well, it makes
That's
them
what
think.
another woman is supposed to do. Another woman is supposed to notice a woman's.
Oh,
Guy is not supposed to do that. That's not actually a very masculine thing to do. He's
it,
supposed
it's kind of
to proud him.
hypocritical. It's hypocritical when a woman gets offended by her dressing in hoochie clothes. Like if she just wants other women to give her the compliments, okay,
Yeah,
that's acceptable. But if a man does it, then it's offensive.
there
But
you
then
go. Look,
again,
well,
it's their objective is attention.
it is a little uncalibrated. I mean, you're kind of taking a female strategy and you're using it for your own male strategy. Can see that is a
And you
little.
know what they do? You know what they do when they hang out with their girlfriends? They talk about everything in fine detail. They talk about sex with their female friends, just like male friends when they're in the man cave talk. They gossip. They talk about their significant others. They talk about their date. Oh, so how'd your date go the other night there? But the only difference is women have an obsession with asking, what does he do for a living? They have an obsession with the man's income, which I find very offensive, because then it makes him look like a gold digger, which goes back to what I was saying
That's
about the beta chimpanzee, the provider. That's the word I was looking for. Some women in Tinder, online dating app, they want a provider. Well, who the hell wants to be a provider? You're a single guy, and you can come and go as you please, and you're having fun. And now a woman is saying, well, if you want to get seriously involved with me, you got to do this, that, and the other thing, and you got to be, if you're a true gentleman, you will provide everything I want. Who the hell, they're not better than us. What happened to equality? So it's a
real equality.
It's a hypocritical equality.
Real equality.
Like Michael Hilton was saying before, that the women dress to compete for attention, but they want the compliments from another woman is acceptable. But if a man compliments them on their hoochie outfit, they get offended. But a woman can do it. It's fine.
Wheelhouse, and today, and everything today. I've gotten into trouble for being a little bit more indirect at times in the past. So it's
in San Francisco. Women get it. I thought San Francisco was the most progressive, free-spirited part of the country.
We all have our own bit of censorship, but censorship is the first stage of corruption.
I thought California people get laid left and right. I thought you're like, hey, whoa, just grab them by the coochie like Donald Trump does. That's what I thought. I thought you're all like,
we're pretty hypersensitive about it out here. If you act the way a woman acts, like, hey, nice blouse, a woman's gonna probably look at you like, what the f is?
Hey, what if a woman, like one time, no, not one time, more than once, there was a girl in a supermarket, and she had a nice body. She wasn't old. She was, she's attractive. She had like a deliberate tear in her jeans where her gluteus maximus is. So there was a piece of her bare ass exposed in the back of her jeans. And of course, guys were walking up to her. She was getting hit on, and it doesn't surprise me. But she was good about it. She was smiling from ear to ear, because why? She knew what she was putting on before she left the house. She was putting on jeans.
Consistent, yeah. She was consistent.
Yeah, that had slits. Where the butt cheeks
I wouldn't approach her if I wouldn't approach her.
Me neither.
Because you're validating if a woman goes out of her way to get attention in general, she goes out of her way to get a lot of attention by you hitting on her, and other people are gonna hit on her and go and walk up to her. That's validating her reason for dressing that way, and then her ego is gonna
enter behavior.
Yeah, so then she's gonna, ooh, guess what? I wore these jeans. She's gonna tell her friends, and I got guys hitting on me left and right. So validation is what you don't want to give them, because the more you validate the woman, the more power she has in the relationship.
Exactly.
That's why I rarely even open a woman with a compliment, and I rarely.
No, just talk to them normal. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, like if there's something going on in the department store, or something funny, you say something humorous. Or what if you have something in common with them? What if you're in a store shopping for things related to your hobby, and there's a decent looking girl there that has the same hobby you have?
Yeah, it's all about
right.
I think
that's perfect.
Yeah, I think it's also all about man's vibe, how he is in the world. And
then they already know that men are up to no good. That's what they talk about. So by being born a male, you have that big strike against you. You know,
I don't think necessarily I'm gonna do that. I don't want to deal with things like somebody's senpaku, for example.
what? What's that word again?
Senpaku, where your eyes, you can see. I have a bit of a big issue myself right now because I actually need to.
You have X-ray vision like Superman?
No, well, it's an issue with somebody's eyes where this is actually a red flag. You can see the iris above or below. So if you see white, if you see the white part of the eye above or below somebody's iris, and that's usually a pretty much a red flag. And you're talking about that girl who was in the supermarket. She may have had senpaku. She may have. That could have been a possibility. She sounded like I don't know if I would have approached her. Not that anything was wrong with her, but it's a daytime setting. It's not a club.
No, it's not. There's no alcohol. It was in the daytime. I am sure she. Yeah, but I'm sure she knew exactly what kind of jeans she was putting on. Because women, nothing passes them by with their wardrobe and their cosmetics. They know what they're doing. I mean, it was a horizontal slash right over where the butt cheeks are. Not both butt cheeks, well, one. But it was a big enough slash where you had flesh.
It sounds like you didn't. It sounds like you didn't go up to her though. It sounds like you didn't.
I was staring at it. I was
take advantage of her.
It was an ass. Asses are very, even though the gluteus maximus is the largest and strongest muscle group in the body. It's not a sex organ, but it is. It's treated like a sex organ, well, the breasts are for lactation, okay, but the breasts are also very stimulating to a lot of people. But the butt is that way. Women like guys that are physically fit and have a nice round butt.
Mm-hmm.
We hear about women talking about a guy's butt. He has a nice shaped butt, especially if he works out. It's firm. Women do it, but they can do that. You see, this is the point with the hypocritical feminism. They can oogle and catcall guys, and the guys are going to be like George Costanza's mother in the car. Hey, ass man! Oh, ooh, they're going to be. Oh, wow, these girls are catcalling me. Oh, they want me. I'm a stud. Guys love that, but the girls get so offended when they get attention by men that they feel are lusting after them. But
bad attention though. How can it be good attention in any?
But if men don't give them attention and are attracted to their appearance, women start questioning their validity and they start crying the blues to their friends and their family. Oh, the guys are not talking to me anymore. Nobody approaches me.
You make it too fearful to walk up to you because other people don't like you because you're unfriendly, unapproachable.
You're probably unapproachable.
Yeah.
Like if a woman is extremely attractive and her arms are folded and she never makes eye contact and she looks angry all the time, the chances are a lot of guys are going to be reluctant to.
I'm going to disagree a little bit because oftentimes, maybe not arm folding, that's a little risky, but oftentimes a lot of women who have seemed negative have ended up being extremely positive. Those who have started out seeming really flashy with their eyes and everything, they actually end up being a lot.
Well, some women do not see themselves in the mirror as others see them. Some women have a low self-esteem and they look pissed all the time, but they might not be angry. But how do you know that? I mean, it's not like I'm gonna walk up to them I'm gonna walk around in public with these things and go, pick a woman for me, divining rods. Is this one? What about that one over there? What? They're gonna get the straitjacket. They're gonna take me away.
It'd be kind of humorous, actually, to see it because you know what? I dare you, drink enough beers and do it one day, just for comedic effect, just to see what would happen.
If there was a guy that I know and I'm friends with did it with me, they'll take us both away.
Right.
They'll get the butterfly net and throw it over us.
Maybe in New Jersey, but not here.
Oh, divining rods. Would it be ridiculous and a big mistake if I utilized you to help me find a girl in public? Would that be a big mistake, divining rods?
Yeah, they're like, nope, I'm out. I'm not fooling with this.
Johnny Ringo says, sometimes I feel bad for the very attractive ones because they have received positive reinforcement for bad behavior
Yes.
their entire lives. Yes. No matter what they do, they're number one in the eyes of many.
Oh, well, there are a lot of
because they're hot looking.
I mean, San Francisco is a great city, but it has its issues. I keep having to battle. Sometimes it's my fault, but I have to battle, social justice warriors and people with low social IQ. These people, they like to put words in my mouth all the time. One guy kept chucking a menu in my face. I didn't even ask him. So yeah, there is that attitude, James. You're right. A lot of it's okay. I do it.
Maybe I should come out there and go Joe Pesci over this guy.
Or me. Yeah. I don't think people in San Francisco would like me too much.
Yeah, me and Damien will come to the restaurant with you and let's see them try that. Now, the first thing a hot-looking girl usually does in her life, as far as exposure, would be cheerleader, right? And that's the first thing that the real hot chicks usually do, right?
A hot girl is a feminine girl who, maybe even does
cheerleader.
Cheerleading or something that's very comfortable in her own skin, very confident, very relaxed. Well, has no problem walking up to a guy who didn't even notice her first.
I wish I met people like that growing up. The ones that were hot looking in my neighborhood didn't. Well, you know what? If the guy has something that the woman really wants, like if she's into cocaine and he's got plenty of it, or if he's rich and she's a gold digger, or if he's famous, if George Clooney decided to walk around, I'm sure he'll get lots of attention.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? When I went to get my hair cut, because I had a big mop of hair, and I have very thick, coarse hair, so the girl at Supercuts, I broke her scissors. So she said,
no!
Look what you did! You broke my scissors with your damn wiry hair. So she says, it's time for you to dye your hair. Don't you want to find a girlfriend? You got to dye your hair. I says, you sound like the Venezuelan dentist I had.
Your hair's fine, James.
I says, she used to yell at me about my gray hairs. You got to dye your hair now. I said, what about George Clooney? And nobody gives him a hard time about his gray hairs. Why? Because he's rich and famous? What's his name? That guy's name was oh man. The one that was in with Julia Roberts, was that Pretty Woman? What's his name again?
Richard Gere.
Richard Gere. He let his hair go freaking salt and pepper and everything. Nobody got on his case.
I mentioned the motherfucker's name right off the bat. So
yeah, Richard Gere, and he was in that movie, that military. What is that? Full Metal Jacket or something?
Oh yeah,
that military movie.
Well, there's been plenty of military movies. I mean, Full Metal Jacket comes to mind.
He was in one of those military movies. Anyway, Richard Gere's hair went mixed, gray, and nobody gave him a hard time because he was a celebrity, and then you can get away with that.
A hot girl will find any color of hair to be good looking, and she's not even gonna. I've had girls, all be shaking and all be just profusing out like a spew, and they won't give me just the hairy eyeball about it. So we're talking a lot about women who seems like they always want to play the man role and blame and try to control everybody else. And it sounds like those are the kinds of women who we're talking about because we're trying to avoid them.
But the girl that cuts my hair, she's Spanish, and when
Nice.
when she said that about my hair, the gray, that I got to dye it real soon, and I brought up George Clooney. She didn't answer me. She smirked. She smiled. I said, why? Because he's rich and famous, so his gray is fine. So, she didn't give me an answer in terms. Oh, he went bye-bye. She didn't. Yeah. She did not debate me on it. That's the word I'm trying.
She was probably just giving you a hard time, just because let's face it. I mean, you were born in 1958. I mean, you're 62 years old, probably gonna be 63 years old. So
I'm gonna be 62.
Okay, so you're 61, okay? So what if your hair goes gray? So what? I mean, if I'm 61 years old, I'm gonna let my hair go gray. I mean, yeah, granted, I've got like dark brown, borderline black hair, but you know what? If it goes salt and pepper or goes full blown gray or white, so what?
No, my hair is not full blown gray or white. It's salt and pepper, but they always have to say something.
Right.
Maybe it gives her it gives her a feeling of power to critique a man. Who knows what goes through their heads? But
exactly.
But anyway, you notice. Oh, there he is. You notice how the flag waving conservatives that are not financially independent. They're far from it. You see all the excuses they come up with to support capitalism and make it seem like it's like the best thing that ever happened to humanity, when actually it's modern day imperialism.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was reading through the comment section earlier. I don't know if Ronnie is still watching this video, but I was looking at the comment of, you do need to recognize there is a difference between capitalism and crony capitalism, and we live under a crony capitalist system currently, and the failure of such may lead to the rise of socialism.
Oh yeah, I'm looking for.
I'll get to that one here in just a moment, but I want to touch on that one.
This is the comment?
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, Ronnie, I don't know if you're still watching this video, but I mean, crony capitalism is the true face of capitalism. Capitalism wants to put as many faces on itself as it possibly can to mask its real intention. It's just crony capitalism doesn't want to do that. Crony capitalism just wants to show you exactly as to what capitalism really is, and that, it doesn't want to show that, it's trying to do this, it's trying to do that. No, it's just going to just throw it out there in your face as to what it really is. That's crony capitalism. Crony capitalism is what capitalism really is. It's just its true face. It's not trying to put on a mask or be something it's not. It's being what it's supposed to be. Now, the second part, the failure of such may lead to the rise up of socialism. Well, I hate to say it, socialism is inevitably going to happen for two reasons. One, I'm not going to go ahead and preach about human nature because there is no such thing as human nature. There is the nature of the environment of which we are natured in. There is also the nurturing of which, the environment of which we are nurtured in. You can have somebody who was born silver spoon in hand and they had everything given to them on a silver platter. They turned out just fine. You can turn around and you get someone who was born from a poor family. They grew up in completely terrible material conditions, and they turn out to be the stereotype of their environment. Yet also the opposite is true. You can have someone who was born silver spoon in hand and had everything given to them, and it turned out completely wrong. Or someone who was not born silver spoon in hand, completely born in piss poor material conditions, and did not turn out like the stereotype that people want to portray them as. They turned out fine. In fact, they actually turned out better than the person who was born silver spoon in hand. So there is no such thing as human nature. All right, so now we've gotten all of that out of the way. Now, there are certain things that are innate as human beings, not necessarily it's human nature, but there are some things that do define us as different species as compared to other species of animals. You know, we're supposed to be the top of the food chain. You know, we're supposed to be the best in terms of evolution physically and psychologically. You know, that's what the human species are supposed to be. However, socialism is inevitably going to happen for two reasons. One, capitalism played a role in terms of historical development, and that role has already been served. And now we see that fascism is capitalism decay. Now, the second reason why socialism is inevitable is because we as human beings, with us being higher up on the food chain, you know, we're supposed to be better than animals. We're supposed to have better ethics, better morality over animals. And that's going to be manifested in socialism, because socialism is the stage beyond capitalism. Now, this is not communism. We must not confuse socialism and communism. No, the right wing wants to throw the two together as if they're the same, and even the left wing to a certain extent. But actually, socialism and communism are two completely different things. Socialism is the transitionary period from capitalism to communism. But where socialism is going to play the biggest role in terms of us, you know, like capitalism, it has its role to play. But where it's going to usher in a new era for us, you know, we as human beings, we like to work for the betterment of ourselves, physically and psychologically. But yet we also want to feel as though we're working for a betterment of society. You know, we as individuals, we're working to better ourselves, but by us bettering ourselves, we're ultimately going to help other individuals lift themselves up to where they feel as though they're part of a collective in terms of social and economics, or society as well as economics. Now, we're going to be doing that in a variety of different ways. We're going to be doing it through sociology, psychology, philosophy, law, economics, law, ethics, what have you. We're going to be all doing that. And in fact, we do that even to this very day. We always have, even through the earliest conception of society, even back to the earliest primitive societies. But we ultimately see that now capitalism has served the role, but we also see now that capitalism, yes, it benefits certain individuals, but where it fails to provide is for the collective overall good. That, you know, that's why we have this huge disconnect in why our society is physically as well as psychologically sick. We want to feel one way, but reality is telling us this is not the case. That is why our society, you know, is the way that it is. That's why we have the biggest polarization we've ever seen in terms of human history. While we have some of the greatest wealth in terms of individuals who have accumulated so wealth, and the most wealthiest individuals besides monarchs throughout history, yet we have some of the most poorest.
He lost connection. Yeah, he'll be
Trump's
back.
people did this.
His Wi-Fi maybe had a thunderstorm. Oh, I just wanted to show you Michael Hilton. There he is.
James Beeman.
The divining rods did not come with the fat straw. I added the fat straw.
What's the fat straw?
I don't want people to accuse me of moving them. See, there's no way I can move them because they're they're in a fat straw. So, there's no way I'm moving them. So, because before people were saying, "Oh, you're moving it. You're moving it." Okay, let me bring back Mr. Owens.
Yeah, there we go. Webcam messed up.
Off now. You lost.
Yeah, so we'll pick up where we left off. I mean, yeah, it's created the most amount of wealth, but also the greatest amount of poorest people ever in terms of human history. So it's also created the most amount of wealth, but also the most amount of debt at the same time. Now, here's where things get the most interesting about capitalism. It's produced the most obese people, yet it's also produced the most amount of hunger ever in human history. Because if you look back, humanity has never been this hungry and has never been this obese before, ever, in terms of human history. So it's polarized us to where, we want to think and we want to feel. We want our actions to, be the manifestation of how we feel about things. We feel as though we're working to better ourselves and also better the collective of society, but we're not. And it's fucking with us. That's why we have so much crime. That's why we have so much violent crime. That is why we have so much gun violence and so many mass shootings in America, is because we're physically and psychologically sick. Guns are not the issue. The issue is the material conditions of which we live in. That's nothing that the legislative body is ever going to fix. This is something that we as a society, we're going to have to culturally fix ourselves. And it's going to take us as a society to do so. It's a cultural thing we're going to have to face. We're going to have to work out the thesis and work out the antithesis to ultimately form the synthesis, the best elements out of the two. So if guns are not the issue, which is the synthesis, yet the antithesis is guns are the issue, and that's why we have such a violent society, because, guns are portrayed in this light. So the synthesis is, okay, guns are not the issue. We've had guns for such amount of time. Gun violence and violent crime has not been an issue up until now. Something has got to be different. So now the synthesis now forms its own thesis and antithesis. So now we have to face it culturally rather than looking at the inanimate object, really, which honestly has nothing to do with the actual issue ourselves. So, in a long-winded way of saying things, the problems we're facing nowadays, they're cultural, they're societal. There is nothing that the capitalist class can honestly do to fix these issues. Because let's say, even if capitalism falls and we institute socialism, great, more power to us. But now we still have our own social and economic issues to address. Because now, here are the issues we're going to face. So, say we go ahead and we implement universal education, we implement universal health care, we give people more rights, we give them access to jobs, we give them access to higher wages, we give them access to better infrastructure. That's great. That's going to fix our problems. But we have to actually work along with that to fix our problems. We're going to have to tackle our obesity epidemic. We're going to have to tackle our debt epidemic. We're going to have to tackle our physically and psychological sickness that we have as a culture. Now, is capitalism really going to fix our problems? No. Will socialism fix it? Maybe not 100%, but we'll definitely be able to get a huge grasp on our problem, because then we'll be able to look at things and say, you know what? These are the problems capitalism produced for our society. This is how it became so radically polarized. So now we're going to have to work on, okay, so these are the issues. How can we bring it back somewhere in the middle to where, our society is physically and psychologically well, to where, we can provide all these things, but yet also not going into debt. How we can also reverse obesity to where, where people can still eat, to where they can also lose weight, but yet also solve hunger. I mean, there's going to be so many issues we're going to have to work out. But instead of running away from the issues, I'm ready to tackle them head on. And I don't think people are quite ready to do that yet.
Well, hey, at least under socialism, the wealthy will be paying their fair share in taxes, and that's a lot of revenue to solve a lot of problems, and not strangle the mainstream America, the main street, so to speak.
Exactly.
But People don't have the surplus cash to do anything nowadays. All their money goes towards the cost of living.
Exactly, but here's one other thing, and this will be my last point, because I can tell, we've been on for 2.5 hours, and we're probably tired and we want to go.
Yeah.
So, even if we were to institute socialism, here's how we'd have to do it. We ultimately would have to rise up against the bourgeois class, the ruling elite. We will have to overthrow them one way or another. This, legislative revolution that Bernie Sanders is pushing, it's not going to work. See, Americans have always dealt with their problems with violence. We've tried doing things peacefully and democratically, and what exactly has happened? Nothing. Nothing has actually manifested through doing things peacefully and democratically. So, if we institute socialism, here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to rise up armed, overthrow the bourgeois class, seize their wealth, seize the means of production, and then place them under proletarian control, and then ultimately form a state to where we have the means to defend ourselves, but also exert our will and our force externally, not only in terms of us as a country, but also externally as well. And that's ultimately what's going to happen. So even under socialism, we truly institute it the way it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
Here's where things will be different as compared to the rich paying their fair share in taxes. Things will be done based on socialist economics, which means from each according to one's ability to each according to one's work. Which means, yes, there will still be wealth inequality. Socialism never seeks to abolish income inequality. It never set out to do so. It just set out to be to each according to one's ability, to each according to one's work. So which means, you are paid a fair wage according to your work. Granted, some jobs are going to be paid more than others. Completely fine. I have no problem against that. But where things are going to be different is once you're paid according to your work. So, you earn your daily bread, so to speak. You're paid your wage, but when it comes to, collecting extra revenue in terms of taxes, things what have you, taxes in this instance are not really going to be an issue because now we're going to be working on this thing called surplus value, which is i.e. profit. So this profit is going to be distributed across the board. So which means, we're going to be investing so much into healthcare. We're going to be investing so much into education. We're going to be investing so much into infrastructure, debt reduction, as well as access to infrastructure, and then ultimately back into jobs to where there are more jobs to create, then ultimately rise up the workers' wages. Now, how is this to be determined? Well, under capitalism, things are based on an exchange value. Well, under socialism, things are based on a use value. Well, use value is much different as compared to exchange value, where, if there is money to be made, that's where the money is going to be allocated. Well, under use value, the more useful something is, the cheaper it's going to be. Now, the less useful it is, the more expensive it is going to be. So things like the basics. So like, healthcare, education, infrastructure, jobs, the basics of human necessity. That's going to be cheaper because it's based on a use value, not an exchange value. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that, the proletarian could not afford nice things. They can still afford things like a car or a house or a computer or the niceties of life. It just, that will be more expensive as compared to your cheaper things because of use value. So, at the end of the day, that is a much more rational as well as more logical system because capitalism has never been able to rationally allocate resources because of the free market, and the market dictates everything. And also that makes a much better argument for a planned economy, because a planned economy, you say, okay, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. Here's the one we got to work with. Here's what we're going to set out to do. And we either do it or we don't. Now, if we do it, great. If we don't, we're going to also have to explain why we didn't do it and how we're going to make it happen. It holds more people accountable, because under capitalism, you can't hold individuals accountable because of the overall bigger picture. Because, like, say, even if they serve capitalism, they can say this, they can say that, and people will argue, okay, you can't hold that person accountable. No, we're completely getting rid of that. We're going to say, you know what, you had a job to do, you either successfully did it or you didn't. If you did it, great, you're staying in power. If you didn't, guess what? Your ass, get the shit out of your fucking desk and get the fuck out of here.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, socialism is going to be the savior of humanity because it's going to be the bigger role to play in terms of historical development, and it's really going to bring out why we as humans are better as a species. Now, where this is ultimately going to differ is guns. Socialists believe in the right to bear arms socially and collectively as a class to exercise class power, i.e., every socialist and communist country that has ever existed has always armed their military, but has also armed their populace where they can fight to the last man, woman, and child to defend their country.
Mm-hmm.
And that means, arming them with whatever armaments necessary, all the way up to military-grade weaponry.
That don't you have forced conscription? In a lot of those cases, people are forced conscripted into the military.
No, not necessarily like, they become militarized, they're forced to go into the military, but, firearms are looked in a very weird and dynamic light here in the U.S. and also under capitalism, which is why you have the competing factions of the bourgeoisie. You have the liberal narrative of anti-guns. You have the conservative narrative, my guns, my freedom, this, that, and the other. While socialism does not look at gun rights from the liberal or conservative narrative. It says, okay, guns are what are necessary to not only protect our way of life, but to also exert our force externally. So, we have the means to defend ourselves, which means we have a military. We also...
Trump.
What, the oligarch is trying to sabotage Mr. Damian Owens here? What's going on here? Device not connected? No, he'll be...
It's just you and me now.
All right, little entertainment. Little halftime show. There he is.
Back.
You're the
I would go ahead and...
not a good-looking guy.
The oligarch is trying to sabotage Damian Owens.
Exactly. Right. They're trying to sabotage us, but I mean,
Trump.
Let's look at every socialist and communist society that has ever existed. The Soviet Union, Cuba, North Korea, Vietnam. They had a strong military, but yet they had a very armed populace. So look at the way China is now, the way Russia is now.
Or James, can I hear you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I can hear you. Can't hear Damien though.
You don't hear me?
No.
You don't hear me? Really? Oh.
I hear James. I don't hear Damien.
I heard Damien. You didn't hear Damien?
No.
Now he's back. All
right, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, they had a armed military, but they also had an armed populace ready to fight to the last man, woman, and child. Now, I'm a first worldist, but you know what? Ultimately, we're going to have to face these problems ourselves. The third world, they've faced the boot heels of capitalism, and they know what it's like. Now, us as first worldists, we're going to have to face the music ourselves. Is it coming? Yes. Is it happening right now? Maybe not necessarily, but we will have to have it. I just want to get ahead of the curve to show people, you know what? We're going to have to face this music. We've dug this hole ourselves. We're going to have to dig ourselves out, because if we pray that, some divine intervention is going to happen, we're doomed from the start.
Oh, you mean like people keep telling me about the second coming of Jesus Christ going to save us.
Exactly. He's not. I'm sorry. This is something we as individuals are gonna have to do ourselves.
Yeah, we the people are going to have to get down and dirty and really fight for our rights that we're entitled to.
Exactly.
I mean, hardcore fight down and dirty.
Exactly. So, long story short, at the end of the day, we need to protect these rights. We need to expand rights. We need to also protect what rights we've got, but also expand them. Because if we don't, our movement, it's never going to get off the ground. I mean, because let's face it, Bernie Sanders, the reason why he's not winning over some Americans and where ultimately Americans are going to fight him is on gun rights. Now, if he abandons this liberal conservative narrative over guns and becomes more pro-gun, where he wants to enshrine this as a right to where we can stand up and fight and protect it, he could win more votes that way.
Well, he was approached with that question more than once, and this is what he said. He says, I'm not against Americans owning guns because I'm from northern New England, where a lot of people hunt and a lot of people have gun collections up there. And he said, what I am for is extensive background, universal background checks. You don't want a psychiatric patient who just got out of a padded room to be able to buy anything he wants, which makes sense. I mean, look what happened in Las Vegas and all these mass shootings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you don't want a lunatic,
Exactly. Nobody wants that. But in all honesty, no law on the books is ever going to fix that. If we as individuals want to stop evil with a gun, we're going to have to be armed. We're going to have to approach the threat as we see fit, and that means armed. Because the only way people like that are going to be stopped are with guns.
Yeah,
they're going to get guns
because they get it through the black market.
Exactly. So laws are not going to affect the black market ever. We can try, and we're going to fail miserably. But the only way we're ever going to get a hold of this issue is we rise up armed, ready to deal with any and all possible threats. Whether it be from criminals, whether it be from those who are trying to knock us down, oppress us, suppress our rights, take away what little rights we have as individuals. Unless we're willing to do that, we're not going to fix the problem. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're going to have to be armed. We're going to have to rise up. We're going to have to say enough is enough and be prepared to fight. Because if we don't, who is going to be prepared to fight us? The bourgeoisie and also right-wingers. They are going to trample over us and crush us and demolish us like it is nobody's business. In fact, they have the guns, they have the manpower, and they will do it. They're just waiting for that opportune moment to just go ahead and do it. In fact, they have their fingers on the They have their fingers on the trigger, ready to go ahead and pull that trigger at a moment's notice.
See, the problem with a lot of progressives is they think they think it's like the 1960s with the flower children and the peaceful protesting and everybody, getting high and smoking pot and having, camping. They did that with the Occupy Wall Street movement. They were camping out and they had tents pitched on the side of lower Manhattan, and it was something to do. All the college kids were just camping out. They thought it was real fun, like it was Woodstock or something. You're not gonna achieve anything with that hipster protesting. The passiveness. It's like the episode of Star Trek when Captain Kirk split up in two parts. His negative side and his positive side. Unfortunately, Kirk's positive side was so passive and weak that he couldn't make decisions. He couldn't accomplish anything. Well, that's how a lot of these hipster liberals are. They think they're gonna bring love, the love train. They're gonna bring love. That what we need is love. No, no, no. You can't negotiate and be diplomatic and show love to the forces of evil.
Yeah, but the Democrats should pull a Tea Party and get a lot of the occupied people in office. Then.
Well, we need a third party. We need a third social
Tea Party, yeah.
people's party. We need Tea Party. No, we don't want a third party of right wingers. There's plenty of right wingers. No,
but we need to elect a lot of occupied people to Congress. Then, if we're gonna stand a chance.
Well, that's why the Our Revolution was really on a roll, getting many people elected to Congress from the Our Revolution progressive movement. But you can't do it. You can't do it by negotiating and being nice and diplomatic and loving. That's not going to achieve anything with these evil scumbags that have an agenda of power and greed. You know, Damian Owens was right. They have to grow a spine, and they have to realize that unfortunately, it's going to come down to a war. You want to call it class war, you want to call it spiritual war, political war, to defend our rights that we're entitled to. You're not going to do it with those occupied hipsters that were all like, getting high in a tent and camping out and blocking the sidewalk.
Yeah, but then who's our Tea Party? Who are our Tea Party guys? Who are the guys who kind of run acting like they're part of us? They're not really, but they kind of latch on, and then that's how they get into office. And the next thing you know, that we have a president who kind of does that, like Trump.
Well, because you got panderers in the Democratic Party that pander for votes. They pander to any lobbying group. They pander to everyone. They tell you what you want to hear, and they sell you out as soon as they get elected. Ronnie S. is back with
special interest.
Ronnie S. says enough is enough, and it's time for a change. Yeah,
exactly. Now, say for example, even if Bernie Sanders were to win, just to play devil's advocate, this would really be my last point here. But just to play devil's advocate, say Bernie Sanders wins, and Bernie Sanders wins majority in the House and the Senate. In terms of, getting through these changes and these concessions out of capitalism. At the end of the day, capitalism is still going to be capitalism. You've changed the driver, but you've not changed the vehicle. At the end of the day, the vehicle is still going to be the vehicle. Capitalism is still going to be capitalism. It's just Bernie Sanders is going to be the ones that's going to appeal more to the masses to buy into wanting capitalism to stay.
Yeah, it'll be Bernie Sanders, and if he's lucky, he'll get a bunch of squads, real progressive people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and all her friends, and you'll get but like you said, capitalism won't change. It'll
exactly
be there.
That's why it has to be physically overthrown. So, in all honesty, even if Bernie Sanders survives, the Second American Revolution or the Second American Civil War that will be coming eventually, he wouldn't be fit to lead a socialist country for two reasons. One, at the end of the day, he would want to reinstitute capitalism, but with a smiley face. And for the second reason, ultimately, when it comes down to it, he can talk the talk of, yes, let's give universal education. Yes, let's give universal health care. Let's do this, let's do that. But you know what? He'll want to do it in a capitalistic sense. He doesn't want to do it in a real socialist stance.
Then what we have is a bunch of corporatist sellouts across the board. In reality, unless a third party emerges as long as we're dealing with the two major parties. They're going to sell us out. They're going to pander for votes,
Mhm.
sell us out, and they're going to remain capitalist in a capitalist society.
Exactly, but you know where he ultimately will not be competent to rule as a socialist leader, or even have people work under him in a socialist or communist party? He ultimately will betray them because, at the end of the day, when it comes right down to it, he would not defend it in a socialist stance, as in, he would not be for taking the rich's wealth and redistributing it and then changing things from a use value or from an exchange value to a use value. And instead of paying to each according to one's ability, to each according to one's work, and then using surplus value, i.e., profit, to pay for everything else. That's why he ultimately would fail as a leader.
Well, you know what bothers me in the debate about what the mistake Bernie Sanders made is when he talks about universal single-payer health care, he says, yes, the middle class will be paying a little bit more, but they will at the end of the year they will be saving a huge amount on healthcare costs. But he doesn't mention taxing the rich in the same explanation, the same discussion about universal health care.
Thank you.
Not taxing the rich. He just says, yes, the middle class will be paying a little bit more. Well, why aren't you saying the middle class, they shouldn't be paying a little bit more? The rich have been on a tax vacation for decades. The rich are going to be paying for the whole kit and caboodle.
Exactly.
Bill Clinton raised taxes on everyone, I think.
Yeah, and the jobs he created, they were hamburger flipping jobs. They were all like minimum wage jobs. Two people, a married couple, if the both of them had chump change minimum wage jobs, they couldn't survive with the cost of living in near any major city in the United States, in any metropolitan area. You can't survive on that. Now, $15 an hour, in my opinion, by the time we get to $15 an hour, the cost of living will be much higher, and you're lucky your nostrils will be above water, because look, we have we have a Democrat governor who is the former Wall Street tycoon. We have a billionaire by the name of Phil Murphy. Does he feel our pain for real? No billionaire that worked for Wall Street is going to really give a shit about people. You know what he wants to do? He wants to raise he doesn't want to bring the minimum wage up to $15 an hour within 1 year. He wants to do it over several years. Well, guess what? You want to do it over several years. When it finally gets to $15 an hour, the cost of living will be way higher.
It is very flexible, yeah.
$15. Look at you, San Francisco and San Diego, a 2-bedroom apartment, $2,500, maybe more, right?
Oh, I thought Damien was a Southerner.
I am in Tennessee.
He's in Tennessee. The rent's reasonable by him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And they got great barbecue, and they got people got guns. Now,
some good beers down there.
Beer?
Mm-hmm.
Some good beers down there in Tennessee.
I don't know. There's microbreweries all over the place.
Oh yeah, there's some good craft breweries like Asheville, North Carolina. They've got Highland Brewing Company. They were one of the pioneers of craft brewing. Now the biggest one here in our area locally, there's two of them. There's Yeehaw, which is out of Johnson City, which is the city over next to me. Then there's Studio Brewing, which is in Bristol on the Virginia side. Because Bristol, where I'm at, there's the Tri-Cities. You've got Bristol, you've got Kingsport, and you've got Johnson City. I live in Kingsport. Bristol is actually divided into Virginia and Tennessee. And in fact, there's a street in Bristol which literally divides the cities
Interesting.
into Bristol, Virginia, and Bristol, Tennessee.
Wow, how about
If
that?
you're on the left side of the street,
Well,
you're in Virginia. If you're on the right side of the street, you're in Tennessee. And in fact, when you go down this street, it's called
Paper.
State Street. If you look down the street from the front all the way down to the back, if you see the 6 Semper Tyrannis flag, you're on Virginia side. If you see the 3-star flag, you're on Virginia or you're on Tennessee side.
Now, you're Eastern time, right, Damien?
Yep.
You're Eastern.
Um,
1
the
o'clock.
east or the middle time zone does not start until you hit Nashville. Nashville is in central, same as Memphis. Knoxville and Chattanooga near us, they're in the eastern time zone.
Okay, Knoxville and Chattanooga. Now Memphis is on the Mississippi River, correct? Memphis, Tennessee is on the
Yes, they are.
Or like St. Louis is. Yeah.
Well, Memphis is a weird city. Yeah, if we were to go from one corner of Tennessee down to, like I say, the Arkansas border, which is where Memphis is, it would take you anywhere from 8 to 10 hours because you'd have to deal with Knoxville's traffic. Then you'd have to deal with Nashville's traffic as well. Now, Knoxville is not as bad as Nashville, but Nashville, if you're on I-40, because I-40 starts in eastern Tennessee where I'm from, because you've got I-81, which goes from the Canadian border down through Virginia and then down through Tennessee, and then it merges with I-40. I-40 will take you all the way to California. But when you're on I-40, when you're in Knoxville, it actually splits into 5 lanes of traffic. Now, Knoxville traffic is chaotic, but dealing with it at like very early morning or late afternoon, forget it. Same thing with Nashville.
It's like when a friend of mine used to complain about the Los Angeles freeway, come at rush hour, coming, trying to get home. It took at least over an hour for him to get home.
Yeah, well, I mean, here in the Tri-Cities, yes. I mean, Bristol has about, I want to say, 50 to 60,000 people. We just experienced a population boom. We were at we barely had the population of a city at like 50,000. Now we're at about 54,000. Now Johnson City is the biggest out of all 3 of the cities. They are at about 64,000 people now. Collectively, we're about 200,000 people here in northeastern Tennessee. Now, the cost of living here is excellent. We still have to pay federal taxes, but there's no state-level income tax. We pay a flat 9.5% sales tax on everything, but yet taxes are low. People are very friendly. This part of Tennessee is more moderate, meaning, you can sit somebody down and have a rational conversation with them, and you can either convince them or not convince them. Now, there are Christian evangelicals here, but yet they are losing their hold very quickly. The Christian evangelicals, or
Tennessee
the
going blue?
do what?
Tennessee going blue, perhaps?
Yes and no. Like, overall, Tennessee is a moderate to Republican state. However, a Democrat can win here in Tennessee. But could they win as if they were like a California Democrat? No. Forget it. The only way a Democrat wins here in Tennessee is if they are moderate and have a little bit of liberal or progressive stances, but yet they still want to protect individual freedoms. Like, they want to keep what freedoms we have. They want to keep taxes low for everyone.
Oh,
They don't want to hear it.
I crack myself up sometimes. There he is.
Goddamn internet net neutrality. When they repealed net neutrality, they really fucked this up.
Oh, when you go, I do the Jews harp. I do.
Yeah, I heard the Jews harp, but yeah, you might what I was saying. Yeah. My former state where I'm from, I'm not a Tennessee native. I'm from Virginia. And in fact, Virginia has now been dubbed East California because of how blue it has gone.
Didn't West Virginia just try to get Virginia counties to... Yeah, they try to get some... Virginia.
Yeah, they are. One county is actually thinking about merging into West Virginia. See, I'm from Smith County, Virginia, which is in southwestern Virginia. It's about 2 counties away from the Tennessee border. See, when you cross into Tennessee from Virginia, you're in this county called Sullivan County.
It's not Smith County, it's Tazewell County.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to get to. So, the border county is called Washington County in Virginia. When you cross into Virginia when you cross into Tennessee from Virginia, you're in this county called Sullivan County, which is where I live at. So the one county that is trying to merge with West Virginia is called Tazewell County. Now, Tazewell County is in let's say here's the state of Virginia. Tazewell, or Smith is right here. You go through Washington County, here's Tennessee. Okay, Tazewell is on up, and it's in this weird little spot. And it's right next to this county called Giles County, which shares a border with West Virginia. Giles County has been seriously thinking about merging with West Virginia. We call it Virginia Exit, or, that's what they've been calling it. To where, Giles leaves, but also Tazewell County leaves, and other counties go ahead and leave Virginia because Virginia is doing everything in their power to stop the radical liberals from taking seat in Virginia. Like, the big thing they're really trying to push is gun control. I know you all in California, the things you're trying to push in Virginia, you all already have out there in California. And honestly, I feel sorry for you all that you all have to deal with those conditions out there in California. Same thing with James up there in New Jersey. It seems like New York and California, they're the testing grounds of everything. Yeah. Liberal, conservative, doesn't matter. They test in those states.
And the black market still gets what anything they want, and the population has nothing because of the laws.
Exactly.
Republican voices don't matter.
Well, see, Virginia is a weird state. We were called a commonwealth, which is different from a state. A commonwealth is a lot like a state, but what the state capital says, it goes for the whole state. Municipalities cannot necessarily disagree with what is going on with what the state says. Now, a state is much different. A state can have their own ordinances and stuff coming from the state capital, but municipalities can set their own laws and differ from what the state says. And the Commonwealth is completely different. Now, Virginia has over 90 counties in the whole entire state. And over 80 to 85, if not 90 out of 90, I believe there's 95 counties in Virginia. Like 90 out of 95 counties in Virginia said, we are Second Amendment sanctuary counties. However, most of the population of Virginia, which is where most of the politics happen in Virginia, where it has the most pull, is Northern Virginia, which is like, Alexandria, the DC suburbs, and also Eastern Virginia. They have the population, they have the pull for what goes for the entire state. Because if you go to Northern Virginia and then go to Southwest Virginia, it's a night and day difference. Same thing probably I bet with like in California. Like rural California probably does not want the problems that are happening in urban California, like, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, or even Sacramento, which is why, California is trying to break off into 2 different states where, you've got California, which is where you reside in San Francisco, because they want to include urban California as main California. But, like, from Sacramento up, and then all the rural counties become New California or the Commonwealth of California, where, they can have more autonomy over their state and disassociate themselves with the big city problems.
That is the stupidest idea I ever heard. Sorry, guys.
It may sound stupid, but you know what? It's what the people of California want. At the end of the day, what the people want is what the people are going to get. Enough said.
Yeah.
So an idea may be logical or it may be stupid, but if the people want it, it's going to happen. Now, if you don't want it to happen, you're going to have to convince the rural California to buy into, okay, we don't need to split off. We need to stay unified. We need to fix our problems as one California. Rural, urban, that doesn't matter. Good luck trying to overcome that. Because I can tell you right now, it ain't going to happen for two reasons. One, urban California is very liberal, and rural California is moderate to conservative. So good luck overcoming that barrier. And two, the big city problems, like what I said, in San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Sacramento, they ultimately spill out into rural California where they don't want these problems. Because, urban California, they want big government. They want the draconian laws. Rural California does not want that. So ultimately, you're going to have to find that compromise between the two, and good luck finding it, because I hate to say it, California is so polarized, not only because of the liberals, but also the conservatives. So a California liberal and a California conservative is much different from a Tennessee liberal or a Tennessee conservative. Same thing with like a New Jersey liberal or a New Jersey conservative. So
New Jersey doesn't really have any true progressive liberal politicians. They're all moderates. They're all corporate wars. They're all corrupt. It's such a politically crooked state.
Yeah, what do you got, Jeff Van
but-
Drew? Well, what do you think about Jeff Van Drew?
Who is he?
Jeff Van Drew. He was a guy, representative, elected as Democrat, and then like the guy in West Virginia, he switched to he switched parties so that he could.
Someone from West Virginia. And honestly, I hate to say, they have no credibility. Because you know why West Virginia has no credibility? Because in the Civil War, West Virginia was part of Virginia. But you know why they split? Not necessarily because they were against slavery, but Virginians and West Virginians had one big issue that ultimately split the two states. And that is the issue of inbredism. Yes, a lot of people in West Virginia are inbreds. I hate to say it and bust their balls, but they are. In fact, inbredism is still very prominent in West Virginia. Virginia, Tennessee, not so much.
Hey, pedigree dog breeding, you can't inbred those either. You have problems.
So I'm getting back to what I was saying. All I can say is it may sound stupid to split California up into two states, but you know what? That might not be such a bad idea. For two reasons, as I previously stated. But the ultimate third reason, it would actually remove California's control over elections. Can a Republican win in California? Yes. Can a Democrat win in California? Yes, as it is previously shown. But here's what it would do. Urban California would still be able to have their own state and their own autonomy to where, it's urban. Whatever they want to do, they can still do. But rural California, they could disassociate themselves where they can feel as though, they have a voice. They have a way to say, you know what? We don't want these problems. We want to fix these issues ourselves and not deal with big city problems. But where that as an ultimate big pro is
so entitled.
California, regular California would still have about 35 electoral votes. But New California would have about 25 to 30 votes. So ultimately, it could split the votes either way.
Yeah, but
So that way, do what?
So Trump wins.
No, I don't necessarily think it would go for Trump because, like I said, rural California is a mixed bag. Yes, you have liberals, you have moderates, you have conservatives. So, but it leans more moderate to Republican. They just don't want the big city problems. They don't want the draconian laws that urban California has pushed on the rest of the state. They don't want that. So, at the end of the day, it could really be beneficial to the American system because now you've split up a big state in terms of population, in terms of votes. So now if the liberals, they want their vote, they still have their vote. But those who may be liberal, moderate, conservative, they still have their voice from a big state. So like I said, urban California, they have the population, they have the pool, they say what goes for the entire state. Same thing with Virginia. Now, Virginia has gone so blue, just like California. It's now dubbed Eastern California. But I hate to say it, come next election, the Democrats, they're not going to win. In fact, now we're going to see a huge shift to where Virginia goes extreme Republican. So thanks, Democrats.
Yeah, we don't want to see that. Oh, God forbid. There goes all the social programs. Anyway, yeah, we're going to end this because we're over three hours this show. Thank you, everyone, viewers, participants, Michael Hilton, Damian Owens, and everybody else. Johnny
California.
Johnny Ringo, Ronnie S. Some comment by Metal Rocker 94, whoever he is.
That's my gaming channel. I decided just to post that, and the post just to round up some jimmies.
Some guy named Metal. Okay, take care, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
And good morning. Top of the morning to you. Well, it is over here on the East Coast. Bye bye.
We're still trouble over here.
Yeah, you're 3 hours behind us. And my friends in Asia are about 13 hours ahead of us in the future. Shanghai, I think it's 13. Shanghai, Philippines is 13 hours ahead. But anyway,
so, cheers to you guys out there, the future us in Asia. This is the Americans of the past over here.
Americans are the best. I wouldn't say that. Americans are the best for stealing everyone else's natural resources and forcing things on people that they don't want.